All right, Alex Vanderhook. Or is it Vanderjohn? What's your
Vander
name?
Johnson.
Vander Johnson.
Vander Johnson. I haven't legally changed it, but I'm going to at some point. I'm just nervous about all the paperwork. Honestly, I'm just like avoiding paperwork.
But if you consider yourself Vander Johnson now.
I do. Yeah.
So you were Vanderhook. You got married to a man whose last name was Johnson.
It's Johnson.
So you're Vander Johnson.
Yeah. Vander
which
Johnson.
I find both adorable and hilarious.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think I find it adorable and hilarious as well.
I know you do. That's the kind of person you are.
Yeah.
All right. So
Both adorable and hilarious.
yeah, you are.
I think that
You are.
I think those are two words I would accept to describe me.
Yeah, the two most prominent words I would use to describe you.
Yeah.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Norwalk, Connecticut.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
In 1990.
In 1990.
Best year ever.
Tell me about how much time did you spend in Connecticut?
4 years. First, or 3.5.
Okay.
3.5. It was cold. It was dark. My mom refers to them as the dark ages.
Do you have memories of that time?
Vague, I think, recollection. Vague.
Okay.
But not anything super concrete or anything. And mostly, home. And then once you see home videos, you're like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. And it's would I?
That's tricky.
It's once you see a home video,
that becomes the memory.
Yeah, and you're it's kind of unclear whether or not you remember it because you genuinely remember it, or if you remember it because you saw a home video. So.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I don't think I actually remember. I think it's all formed from VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And you have one other sibling?
I have one other sibling that I know of.
That's what I was saying.
Really? Did I steal that from you?
I feel like you did. Did you not?
Is that I could see myself having stolen that, but I did not intentionally say that.
Is that something you've said before?
That's just the vibe I got from you, honestly. So I knew that was a joke you would enjoy, so I said it.
No, dude, I say that all the time because it's a legitimate thing that there are rumors that my dad has other kids.
Right. But maybe I've listened to a podcast and I've heard you say that.
Oh, really?
So I said that. Or maybe you've said that to me in conversation.
Probably. It felt
and maybe that just feels like a colloquial joke between you and I.
I felt like you were trolling me when you said it.
No. Oh my god, not at all. No, that was genuine, yeah.
Was he born in Connecticut?
Who? Marcus? No, Marcus was Georgia.
Okay.
Marcus was Georgia born and raised.
And y'all moved to Georgia when you were 4?
Yeah, 3.5.
And what was the impetus for the move from Connecticut to Georgia?
Coca-Cola, baby.
Oh, that's right.
Tony got a job at Coca-Cola, and that brought us to Atlanta. Oh, wait. No. I'm sorry. Lies. But he got a transfer at his job, which we were trying to remember it the other day. It was something like ABBA or ABBC. It was some sort of broadcast communication company.
Oh.
And they were going to transfer us again. I actually don't know if I'm telling this story right. I don't even know if I have this correct.
Well, who was he working for in Connecticut? Tony's your dad.
ABB.
Some broadcast
or some initial letters, whatever. I'm totally butchering this. I know at some point Coca-Cola was the impetus for keeping us in Atlanta.
Okay.
I don't know if it brought us to Atlanta. There was at one point where they were going to transfer us to Virginia, and we didn't move to Virginia because of Coke, I think.
Okay. Isn't it interesting?
That is so weird. Why don't I know this about myself?
The first person I ever interviewed was my mom.
Yeah.
And there's, she's talking about my early life story, and I'm like, holy fuck.
Right.
I don't know anything about the first 5 years of my life and what the details are. It seems like something that should be an integral part of who you are. You should know your life story, but there's gaps.
Well, I thought I knew this jam packed.
You don't know shit
and
about
now
yourself.
I'm saying it, and I'm like, whoa, what do I know about myself? And should I have researched my own life before doing this interview?
But it was from Connecticut to Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay.
Connecticut to Atlanta.
And did your mom work when you were growing up?
She did aerobics classes. So she did nothing that was a true salary, but she would do gig life.
Okay.
Which we sometimes joke is where I got it from. Seeing her doing dance aerobics in the 90s led to me doing dance later on.
Do you have memories of that?
No.
Of her doing dance aerobics? No?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
No.
But it was like imprinted in your subconscious.
But she said I would follow the moves along in
real?
class. Yeah.
Okay.
She said I would do that. So I think maybe that's partially where I got it from.
What do you know? Do you have any idea what your earliest legitimate memory is?
Ooh. Oh my gosh, yeah. So my earliest legitimate memory is in Norwalk. It is in Connecticut.
Okay.
And I remember being videotaped. As I like woke up for something on like my birthday or something.
Okay.
I just remember being aware of the camera and sort of putting on not like a show, but I just was very intentional about all of my movements.
Ooh.
And so I remember, like, opening a box, just, like, very intentional. I know, this is saucy stuff. But I
know, but it's interesting because it's who you are, right?
Yeah. Like being a performer, and being aware of the camera. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when y'all moved to Atlanta, did you move to... So just we'll flash forward a second, then we'll reconnect the dots. You and I went to high school together.
We did.
You were my sister's best friend in high school. You didn't go to middle school with my sister, did you?
No.
You were one of my sister's best friends in high school.
Yeah.
And so that's how we know each other.
Yes.
And so we grew up in the same town-ish. Town, yeah.
Yeah.
Did y'all move directly there, to that town?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, directly there.
So from 4 years old until graduating from high school, that's where you lived?
Until 18, yeah.
Okay.
That's where I lived.
What do you remember about childhood, like early childhood, elementary school? How was childhood?
It's childhood for the most part, I think, for me was great. Mm-hmm. I had a fantastic suburban childhood. Mm-hmm. I think, like, when I look closely at, like, the cracks or whatever, then it wasn't so great. Mm-hmm. There were aspects of it that weren't so great, but overall, extremely wholesome. Mm-hmm. There were no drugs in my life. There was no, like, sort of there were no major foundational cracks. Mm-hmm. I had all the pieces that lead to a successful life. Mm-hmm. Just formulaically, mm-hmm. if that's a word. Mm-hmm. But I think, like, there were anxieties. Mm-hmm. I had a ton of anxiety as a child and as a kid. And I still have a lot of anxiety.
As, like, a young kid? Like, elementary age kid?
I think that... I don't know. I don't know if I had... I was an emotionally in tune kid. Uh-huh. And so, like, if there were any sort of, like... If I was being made fun of or anything like that, then I, like, felt that.
Gotcha.
I
mean, hell yeah. Make people feel that.
Yeah, you would feel that. But overall, I had a great childhood. Loved Digimon, loved Pokemon. Like, that was the world. Loved Sailor Moon. Loved Dragon Ball Z. Like, that was my world.
It was?
Yeah.
I love how you went from, like, anxious childhood, kind of like this very high level influence about your emotional state, and then like the next most prominent aspect of your childhood is like fucking anime.
100%. 100%. Those were the two worlds that I vacillated between, I would say.
Anxiousness and anime.
Yes. I think even to this day, those are the two worlds that I...
Are you into anime to this day?
Yeah. Oh, I still love all those shows, and like and it is a comfort for me. Like, if I'm feeling anxious or anything, like if I put on Pokemon or something like that, like
really,
it helps calm me down.
Dude, I genuinely did not know this about you.
Yeah,
did not know this at all.
Just like it's a simple, it's a world that I love. Uh-huh. I'm always curious about these different monsters and their personalities and like whatever. Uh-huh. And it's a very simple childish thing to just like glom onto and watch and enjoy.
So today you will still watch it? Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Pokemon's still a thing? Like they're still cranking out new episodes?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I follow it like the way that I followed it as a kid, where it's like, is Ghastly gonna evolve this episode? Like, or like, what's gonna happen with Pikachu? Like, he's deciding, you know, whether he's going to evolve into Raichu or not, and, you know, are they going to be able to beat the gym leader? Like, those anxieties, like, I felt those so hard as a kid.
You identified with them?
I was just along for the ride. Okay. Like, you know, I felt like I was in that world, and, like, you know, and then my brother and I, we would draw our own Pokemon. We would make up Pokemon. We would make up gym badges, gym leaders, like, the whole thing. Like, we would dream up additional worlds. I mean, before, like, Tumblr and Pinterest and all that type of shit popped off, you know, and now you could Google, you know, anime that doesn't make the show, or, like, fan art. Fan art. For the show.
You'd make your own.
We would make our own. We were doing fan art before that was like a
thing.
A thing.
It's shocking that like you kids made fun of you in school.
I know. What would they possibly have to make fun of? I think I hit a lot of it. I do think I hit a lot of it.
I say that I'm just fucking with you, but that shit was popular as fuck.
It was, but
I'm sure there was a crowd you could run with.
There was, but the what's interesting about it is that I was attracted to a lot of the, like, more feminine Pokemon.
Shocking.
And, I know, also shocking. But that was a thing to get made fun of for.
Right.
You know? Was
you're
like,
into the pink one or whatever.
Yeah, you're into the pink one, or you like the girly one, right. Or, like, you know, I remember there was one time my mom came, because she would do, like, activities for classes. She would come in, you know, like, you'd have a guest speaker for the day or whatever. Yeah. And so she would come in, and there was this one thing where she, like, gave everyone in the class an object, and we had to write, like, a poem about that object or something. And she gave, like, the athletes a baseball. Like, she sort of picked things out for different people, and she gave me a unicorn. And I was so embarrassed.
Whoa, your
I was
mom
so
fucking set you up.
I was so, but but at home, like, I played with unicorns all the time. Like,
what grade were you in?
Fifth.
Mom's got to know a little better.
Yeah, but in her defense, like, she had never seen me have shame around that.
Right.
And so, like, to then suddenly see this thing that your kid loves and enjoys, to see them experience shame around it,
right? And
for her to realize, oh my God, I've embarrassed my son. Like, it was hard for her too. I think. I don't know if she would remember it quite as vividly as I did, right. But it is just one of those things where there were invisible forces at work where I felt shame around who I was. Right. You know, where Jesus. And those, and when I think about it, it's like, yes, I was made fun of, but then there were also a lot of invisible when I talk about invisible forces, it's like sometimes you can tell when somebody is uncomfortable around you. Yeah. And they don't have to say fuck you faggot in order for you to know that somebody doesn't like you or that your existence makes somebody else deeply uncomfortable.
That's kind of how I'm feeling right now the more I learn about your anime fascination. Like, this was a big mistake.
Right? Like, why am I
wow, the interview's a great interview. It's getting late.
I know, you set it up with, these can be 3 hours. It's honestly up to you. That's kind of like what I was saying with setting up before we started this interview, of, like, talking about a fake thing that you have an appointment for.
Oh, yeah. You were, like, telling me never tell anyone, like, you have the whole day open.
Yes, never tell anyone you have the whole day. And never tell anyone it's going to be a 3-hour interview, because if you want to cut it off at 1 hour, then you're going to want to...
No, I'm already in the zone with you.
Okay,
this
good.
is going well.
Good.
Okay, go back to invisible forces. You're saying...
Just like my childhood as a whole was amazing and great. But then I would feel these things from adults, too.
Oh, whoa.
You know, well, like an adult that's uncomfortable around a child that loves unicorns and loves, you know, whatever. Like, you feel that as a kid, even if they're not directly saying it. So I think that
When do you remember being aware of these invisible forces? Or this, like, energy, this, like, uncomfortable energy?
Young. Like, a lot of gay people talk about knowing that they're gay, like in kindergarten and stuff. And I didn't necessarily know I was gay, but I knew I was different.
Gotcha.
I knew that how I operated was not the same as other people. And I'd say that was like kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah, it probably comes about like when you're around other fucking kids all day long, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, there's something different about
I didn't know it was sexual. I just knew, like, with the Pokemon anime, whatever, I was different. I was very different than the rest of the boys and the girls. I wasn't like the girls either, really.
Did you ever, and you can answer this or not answer this, did you ever have any, like, I know when you're a little kid it's not sexual, but did you ever have any, like, little kids sexual experiences or like showing other kids your privates type of stuff and that kind of I know I had some weird stuff
as
like
a kid I actually was very private. I was a very private kid, and maybe that's part of where the anxiety about being different manifested itself, where it's like I didn't want to share with other people. And there were a couple.
I was flashing my dick to everybody.
I know you still do. You still.
Something I'm working on.
Well, I think people who know me would be shocked to hear that I was uncomfortable being naked as a kid, because now I'm I show a lot of skin on all the mediums. So I think it would be shocking for some people to learn that.
Your pants are off right now.
Yeah. There would be some times where I would think another guy was into me, and I would have conversations with my mom where I'd be like, I think this other kid is like attracted to me, but I'm not gay.
What age is this?
This was like Boy Scouts era.
What's Boy Scouts era?
Like,
I was a jock, bro.
I also love how I just realized I'm like speaking in like pop music terms, like people you talk about like the Britney era, like, you know, like when I like how I think about my own life, I think about like the same way as a pop stars. But
oh, you mean like the Brett Favre era?
Yeah. Nobody ever. He's a quarterback. Yeah. Yes. So Boy Scouts era, I'd say is like 10 to 13.
Oh, okay.
It's like
in that
puberty
area.
Yeah,
Going to puberty.
And like there was a guy who I think might have been into me or was just experimenting around, you know.
Right.
Or you know, whatever. But I don't remember anything overtly. I didn't have a ton of overtly sexual experiences with any of my friends. Guys really didn't want to be around me.
Right.
I mean,
you're saying, made them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I like to consider myself this like open-minded individual, and I think relatively certainly from where we grew up, I was, and being raised by who I was raised by, you know, I objectively I think was more open-minded and inclusive than, you know, most people that we went to school with. But that being said, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Especially at the time when we grew up, it just wasn't like a big thing. It wasn't like there were openly gay people.
Teachers were still getting fired for being gay. Yeah. Or teachers who were gay couldn't talk about it. But kids are smart, you know. Yeah. They notice when, you know, Mr. Ba or whoever doesn't have a wife and like he acts a certain way, and then kids start to whisper, and they know it's shameful because they see that he's not allowed to talk about it. Yeah. So then that's part of how they know that it's bad in me because it's bad in Mr. Ba. So that's where I think they get, so it's so great now that we live in a society where teachers can be gay and open and like.
I mean, not to mention but just like the religious component of it. Like we grew up in the fucking South. There were a lot of very Christian or very Catholic or even very Jewish people that we grew up with. Yeah. It was like, you know, if you're raised in a household like that, then that's just like bad. Right. Right? You shouldn't be gay. Yeah. Even the religion that I was kind of raised in, the Baha'i faith, which is like supposed to be all inclusive of all religions and all, you know, quote unquote manifestations of God, and you know my mom, she is the most all inclusive kind of like angelic person, but you know a huge reason that she no longer is like an active participant in that faith is even that faith was like homosexuality is a no-no.
Yeah.
You know, and so
And
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So if you're getting that message in the home, then all of a sudden there's a kid at school who you think is gay, then you're gonna think as a fucking 12-year-old that like, oh, this kid's bad or whatever.
Right. And I was really lucky that I wasn't getting that message at the home.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
oh yeah, that made shit a hell of a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm maybe more well adjusted for being raised in the South. Is that like my parents both had gay best friends. And my dad's an atheist, and my mom is a drama teacher, and so like
that's true. You got a fucking good.
So and they really encouraged open and honest communication, right. And so like I could talk to my mom about like, I think this kid is hitting on me, but I'm not gay. Like I don't think I'm gay. Like I would talk about things like that, but it's also a weird thing to be so repressed that you believe your own. Bullshit.
I'm glad you brought that back up because that's what I wanted to go to next. When you said those things to your mom, did you know that like I'm covering for what I actually feel? Were you trying to like convince yourself of something else? Did you not know?
I think what it was is because there was such a derogatory vibe. I don't know. Derogatory stigma, that's what it is, because there was such a stigma around being gay still, and like because I was being made fun of for having a feminine voice or having feminine mannerisms or like whatever, I knew that it was bad. I was like I can't be gay, right? I think on top of it, my hormones just hadn't hit yet, and I wasn't I genuinely wasn't. I wasn't so attracted to somebody that I was aware of it.
Right.
Like, there might have been, I might have been attracted to somebody and started poking them a lot or, like, whatever, but I wasn't cognizantly aware that that's why I was doing that. You know what I mean? Because, like, I read old journals now, and I'm like, oh, I think I had a crush on this guy because I keep writing about him. But as I'm in reading it, you can tell that I'm not almost like, Googling attraction. It's like I'm not aware of what attraction is, and I'm just starting to experience it. So I think that there's a part of the denial where I wasn't overtly attracted to anyone, so there wasn't anything to deny. So I could be like, oh, I'm not gay. And I said I'm not gay because I don't want to be those stigma, those awful things that people say about me. I don't want those to be true.
So when you were a kid in this kind of era, the Boy Scout era, you were aware of the concept of homosexuality.
Yes.
And your thinking around that concept of homosexuality was a negative one.
Yeah.
Whoa, interesting.
It was a negative one because
no one else was gay.
Well, my mom's best friend was gay.
And you knew that?
And I knew that.
Okay.
But
your mom would talk to you like, this guy's gay?
Well, there was one time where my parents are divorced. There was one time when I was younger, I asked because my mom's best friend and my mom got along so much better than my mom and my dad. And I was like, why didn't you guys get married?
Right.
I blatantly asked. I said, why didn't you marry Danny?
Right.
Because you seem to get along
better, so
much better with Danny. And I think that's so.
You had to explain to you, right?
And I think that kids just pick up on that there is a stigma, that there is a taboo around certain topics, where we adults were not necessarily aware that we're communicating that stigma.
Right.
Like, I even think with my husband's nieces and nephews who, like, started to have we never overtly came out to them because we just didn't know what the ground rules were for that. We still don't know what the ground rules are for that.
How old are they?
They're the oldest one, I think, is about to be like 12 or 13.
Okay. But, I mean, they've known. I mean, they were fucking married.
Well, I haven't seen that particular nephew in like a long time.
Okay.
It's been a long time, but when I first started coming around, I would say, like, or year 2 or something, The kid
They were still kid. They were like kids.
He was a kid, and we hadn't blatantly said, we are boyfriends, we are dating.
Right.
And so he would come up to us and be like, raise your hand if you have a brother. And I would raise my hand. And he'd be like, raise your hand if you have a roommate. And I'd be like, you know, you raise your hand. And he's clearly trying to figure out what our relationship is. And, like, because he asked Tyler when he didn't raise his hand for a brother, he was like, why didn't you raise your hand? Alex is your brother. And Tyler was like, Alex is not my brother. And he was like, okay. You just see, but because and so sometimes I feel like we should have just come out and said in that moment, like, we're boyfriends, we're dating, you know, but we didn't, because there's been an evolving conversation about how to talk to kids about sexuality, because it almost feels like the sex talk that you're having with young kids, and you don't necessarily want. As somebody who's not their parent, you don't want to be
That's
the one.
what I was about to say. It's kind of a parent thing too. You don't want to step on.
You don't want to step on toes. You don't know what the parents' rules are. But then you have kids come up and ask you, like, where's your girlfriend? Why don't you have a girlfriend? Mm-hmm. And then you think, like, you could not lie and you say, oh, I don't have a girlfriend, which is the truth, right? Mm-hmm. But that's also not the truth, because the truth would be, I'm actually not into girls. I'm into guys. Mm-hmm. So it's very tricky when that conversation comes to kids. Mm-hmm. And what's allowed. Yeah.
Let's stay on that topic, actually. Okay. At what point did that shift to where, like, there was a more complete awareness of your sexuality? This is as you're going into high school?
No, I realized I was gay my senior year.
Of high school?
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah. That's when I realized I was gay.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when I had a full-blown... Because I dug myself into that hole deeper and deeper and deeper. Of denial.
I think I was aware you were gay before you were aware if you were gay.
That was the thing, is everybody was... it was one of the things to talk about.
Right.
Do you think Alex is gay or not?
Right.
Like, other people would discuss that without me even present.
Right, I bet. Yeah.
All the time. And that's, I think, why I also identify with, like, celebrity culture and stuff, was because I was somebody...
Gossip.
I was somebody who was talked about.
Yeah.
You know? And I had to deal with...
I'm sure my friends and I mentioned it at some point. I don't remember like any explicit conversations, but I just always assume you're gay. But once again, it wasn't a thing where there were openly gay kids at school.
Right.
And so...
And you're aware that people are talking about you, and not necessarily in the most positive light. Mm-hmm. Like, it was often a conversation that was a joke, you know? Like, isn't it funny that Alex isn't even aware of how gay he is? Mm-hmm. You know? And that's why when I finally did come out, I felt so humiliated that these jocks knew something about myself that I didn't even know about myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was, like, so mad that they were right all along and I had doubled down. I mean, obviously I know why I doubled down. It's because I was being made fun of all the time, you know? And I didn't want to be that negative thing that they were saying about me. And I didn't want that to be true.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was just so I had, when I came out my senior year, I was having anxiety attacks just constantly.
I fucking bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I missed, oh gosh, I forget the number now. But it's something like 30 days of the second semester of my senior year.
Really?
I missed because of anxiety.
Wow.
Or because I had an anxiety attack or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
So through freshman through junior year, there weren't any, like, overt sexual things? Was it something you would feel like you were masking or burying?
So I had a girlfriend my freshman year.
Okay.
But that was very, like, high school, like, not...
Y'all were, like, hooking up?
We made out, but we never... I mean, looking back, obviously, it's like, well, I was gay, so that's why we didn't hook up.
Right.
But the Christian thing is an easy thing to hide behind as a gay person.
Yeah.
Because you can be like, no, it's not morally right. You know, like, you can...
When you did that?
I think I did. I think for me, because of the South, I want to be wholesome. I have this desire to be wholesome.
Gotcha.
You know? And to be palatable and digestible and likable and, you know, well received by the most number of people as possible, you know? So I think that being sexual doesn't lend itself to that. At least that was the messaging in the South at the time, was that being sexual is not wholesome.
Right.
And so I think I very much ascribe to that.
It's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Because on my end, in my high school experience, it was the opposite. To me, I felt like this very strong pressure to be sexual.
Oh, really?
Like you weren't fucking cool if you're not hooking up with chicks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
And you would get made fun of. Like, oh, bro, you've never gotten a blowjob before? And then as, like, you know, by junior and senior year, dude, you're still a virgin? It was, like, kind of, I don't necessarily the opposite, but, like, I felt a very strong pressure. Like, fuck, I need to hook up with this chick. I need to find someone to hook up with. I need to find someone who's going to suck my dick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I remember that, too, but I think that I hid behind the Christian wholesome thing.
Right.
You know, of hiding behind that and using that as my scapegoat.
Right. What about, like, masturbation?
What about it?
Did it not happen in high school?
For me?
Yeah.
Yes, of course it happened.
And so you're thinking about dudes? You're thinking about girls?
Well, I mean, in straight porn, you have both a guy and a girl.
Interesting.
So
that's funny you bring that
up.
So
I still thought I was straight, right? Because I'm watching straight porn.
Interesting.
Right?
No, it's funny you say that, actually, because when I watch porn,
I
do not want a dude in it at all. I do not. I actually just had this conversation yesterday I can't divulge more than that.
Yeah.
But I will divulge the concept of the conversation. It's like, I look at porn as just like a tool. And I look at masturbation as just like, the person I was having a conversation with actually drew this analogy. She's like, oh, it's like for you, it's like taking a shit. And I was like, yeah, it is. It's like something I need to get out of me. And porn is just a tool to like coffee. When I drink coffee, I have to take a shit immediately after taking coffee. Porn is just like, I can get this semen out of me immediately. But when I watch porn, dude, I do not want to see a dude. I don't really want to see a naked dude with a massive erect penis. A, because I'm not attracted to dudes. And B, it makes me feel insecure because this guy's got a giant dick.
Right.
And I want to fuck the chick too. Right? So it's like, I'm just staring at this guy with this giant dick.
But straight people do watch.
Any straight person, both male and female, most straight people that I've talked to watch heterosexual sex.
Yeah, right.
Dudes and girls.
Right.
But for me, it's like, I just want a naked girl, maybe lesbians, and that's it. I don't want a dude anywhere in the fucking equation. So it's interesting you say that, because, you can do both.
You can do both. And for me, it was like validation again. Here I am straight.
Absolutely.
I
watch straight porn just like everybody else.
Just like everybody else.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I would have conversations with guy friends about, like, because, people would bring this up to me all the time, right? Are you gay? Are you gay? How are you?
People would bring it up to you?
All the time.
Oh, all the time. Okay.
And so I was saying no, I said no so many times
that you weren't.
That to change the story would be...
Right.
You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Like, it would be, like, weird to all of a sudden be like, actually, you know what? Now I am.
Yeah.
It's
funny you say that. Actually, I can kind of resonate with that too a little bit as well, with the OCD stuff. Like, my whole life, starting in 5th grade, actually, Boy Scout era, I started having this horrible OCD, and I was washing my hands 100 times, and I, was putting on my soccer cleats on and off 100 times, and obviously people noticed. And so, especially starting with my mom would ask, like, what the fuck's going on? And then my closest friends would start to ask, what the fuck is going on? And it was the same thing. I was like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I'm fine. I like taking off my soccer cleats 600 times or whatever.
Right.
And it's the same thing. I'm sure it wasn't nearly as pronounced as, like, gossipy as yours, because the gay kid in school is much juicier than the kid who's checking his car door. Right? But I know my friends were like, once again, it wasn't gossiping, but we're saying behind my back, like, dude, what the fuck is going on with Alex? What is with him checking his car door over and over? Why can't he fucking open his locker? Like, I know those conversations were happening, so on a smaller degree, I can resonate with that. What about your parents? especially like you said, your mom had a gay best friend. Your dad had a gay best friend as well.
Yeah.
And your mom ended up becoming a drama teacher, right? At some point, I think you said that.
Yeah. So she became a drama teacher. Yep.
How old were you when she became a drama teacher?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay.
And I should be able to calculate this because she's told me how many years she's been teaching, but it was late for her. For her, it was not how a lot of our friends are now who went to school to be teachers, graduated, became teachers in their 20s.
Right, she had 2 kids.
I think, she was mid to late 30s, I think.
Okay.
When she started teaching.
Okay.
That's
so you're in like middle school, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say elementary school, middle school.
Okay.
Is when she started training, and then maybe like, yeah.
Okay. And your parents never like sat you down and like talked to you about your sexuality?
They never asked.
Okay.
They never asked.
Did you ever have a sex talk with your parents?
Yeah.
Like a birds and the bees talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I never did, actually.
You didn't?
Mm-mm.
No, my dad was very, like, cut and dry. Like, he was just, like, he was not going to be embarrassed by the topic. He was like, so, this is how it works.
I was actually just going to mention that your dad's British, but you introduced yourself.
British.
Go ahead, please continue.
He's British. This is how it works. The penis goes in the vagina, and, baby comes after that. Here's some condoms.
Oh, he gave you condoms?
Uh-huh.
When was this?
I don't know, but he gave us condoms because he was like, I don't want... Just be safe.
Right.
Just be safe. If you're going to have sex, then be safe.
It's like, Alex, not going to worry about you getting anybody pregnant.
I don't know, though. I don't know. I think Tony was in denial about me. Right.
Oh, really?
I do. I think Tony was in denial about me.
Okay. Do you think that he, it was an issue?
I don't know, but I think Tony sees so much of himself in his children that I think it was a shock when I didn't turn out to be the same as him. This is me putting words into his mouth. I have no idea how he actually felt.
This is when you call me up in a week and tell me I have to take that. Fucker, stop telling me to take down the goddamn episode. I'm not taking down any more fucking episodes.
That's right, yeah.
Once this mic is on, it's fucking Rolling Stone.
Oh my god. Drag them. No, just kidding.
No, I love you all, but seriously, it's fucking pain in the ass to take down these episodes.
Oh my god.
Real quick, I saw off the gay topic real quick.
Yeah.
Atheism. Did he ever specifically set you down and listen, fuckers, God isn't real?
We had lots of debates.
Okay. Debates. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was an open conversation throughout your life.
Tony was all about debates. He loved having debates. He loved talking about different points of view. And he wanted us to be able to articulate why we felt the way... He wanted us to be able to back up our own arguments. Right. And, know how to support your own beliefs. Right. You know? Right. And so if we did think differently about, religion or whatever, we had an open debate about it. That's awesome. You know? That's awesome. And which I think... And their whole thing, Mary Beth and Tony, was...
Mary Beth's your mom.
Uh-huh. Sorry. Mary Beth is my mom.
That's what I'm here for.
They were like, we want you guys to decide what you are. It is your choice. What you believe is up to you. Read everything, make your own decision. And it was like that from the get-go, even with Christianity being all around. And with atheism, too. My mom she grew up Catholic, so she took us to church. I ended up being a Christian camp counselor, and I gave devotions from the Bible.
Oh, really? In high school?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Every night. Or not every night, but when I was a counselor.
Gotcha.
I would do that. Which was pretty...
Like a little teenage pastor.
Yeah.
I could totally see that. You'd be a great pastor.
I was so straight-laced. I mean, and that's why I say I was anxious and uptight. I was so straight-laced. I wanted to have the cleanest record. I wanted to be just so squeaky clean and wholesome and all of that. And so even though you mentioned that thing about the pressure to have sex as a boy, I still think I very much felt the cookie cutterness of where we grew up. Right. Where I wanted to be cookie cutter too.
Right.
Even though I knew I wasn't. I knew I knew I was very different than what was going to be expected of me. But yeah, religion, politics, anything, like, it's weird because they didn't talk politics when we were growing up, and now I feel like it's all I talk about with my dad now. But it was still, even then, it was like, you get to decide if you're a Republican or Democrat. You get to decide what your opinions are about things. Like, we're not going to tell you how to think.
What was the political leanings of both of these parents? I can kind of assume with your mom. I don't know about
they're both pretty liberal.
Okay.
I mean, and Tony being from England, he has a bigger worldview, and like, I think for us, for Americans, it's like we sort of know the politics of Florida versus California versus Georgia versus Maryland. Like, we sort of understand all that. Yeah. But for him, his states were France, Spain, Germany, and it was completely different leadership styles over there, completely different tactics of how to go about creating order in a civilization. So I think for him, he has always looked down on that side of America where it's not super educated and we don't have as worldly of a view, where it's just so black and white over here, whereas like over there, there's just so much nuance. I feel.
Yeah.
Not that there isn't nuance in the United States, but...
No, but you're right. Generally speaking, Americans are like, this is the center of the world, so we know about American politics. I don't know who gives a fuck what the fuck's going on in France.
Right.
Like, what's France?
Right.
Yeah. When did they get divorced?
They got divorced when I was 13.
Okay, so right on a formative time.
Yes.
And so,
right around a formative time. And that also was a big defining point of my childhood, too, was I lived in two houses, and my parents' divorce was better than most kids' marriage. Most kids' parents' marriage.
Yeah.
Like, my parents got along. They co-parented really well. They didn't fight in front of us. Like, they would have disagreements about, like, what we were allowed to do or whatever. But overall, they got along really, really well. And nobody really could believe that they were divorced and and that was going so smoothly.
Right.
But
you mentioned that you were talking about you asked your mom about her gay friend and why they didn't get married. So there was some awareness that your parents weren't getting along. Right?
Yes. Oh, for sure. And like, my mom said that, like, leading up to the divorce, I was an emotionally in tune kid.
Right.
I knew sort of things that were going on. And I'd be, apparently leading up to the divorce, I wanted to create a suggestion box at home of, like, put your feelings in here, like, write down how you're feeling so we can read it out and then fix it. You know? And so, like, I wanted like a suggestion box at home that, according to my mom, I don't remember that, but according to my mom, that's something that I wanted.
So yeah, you're definitely recognizing, okay, there's some tension here. We need to smooth some shit over.
Yeah.
We express some feelings.
Yeah.
Okay. But it wasn't like, knock down, drag out fights and shit like that. It wasn't like a hostile home environment.
No. They just weren't on the same page anymore.
Right. And then the split was relatively amicable. Like, he stayed in the same town. He stayed right down the street.
He stayed in the house that we grew up in, and then he bought. He helped her buy a house a mile away. It was literally a 5-minute drive. One song, you could play one song and get from one house to the other. And it was, that part was super easy, even though the 5 minutes starts to feel like a schlep,
right?
After a while,
right? But you don't remember feeling like particularly like devastated or like...
No, I mean, it was hard,
right?
It was hard, and I didn't enjoy it. I blamed my mom at the time.
Oh, really? Why?
Just because she had started to do more things for herself, and at that time and at that age, it felt like she was the cause. Like, if she could have just been happy with what we had,
right,
as opposed to wanting more,
right?
But like, I totally understand. We want excitement in our lives.
Right.
We want to go. She wanted to go get into cycling and do all these things and whatnot, and Tony and her just didn't connect on all of those things. He was much more involved in the business world, and he wanted to travel and do, video games and some of those things, and they just weren't connecting anymore.
Video games? Like for work?
No, just like the activities he was interested.
Oh, got you.
The activities he was interested.
You play video games?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Tony, that's where I get my gaming addiction from.
I didn't know you had a gaming addiction.
I don't know. I say gaming addiction loosely, but I get addicted to games for sure.
Like Xbox?
Like Pokemon Go.
Okay,
I'm addicted to.
I can see that. But you don't have like an Xbox or a D?
No.
Okay.
And yeah, I would be much more addicted. Tyler, my husband, is very anti-video game, and because of that sentiment, it's like hard to get into video games.
He's crushing every Pokemon Go.
It's hard to get it. He doesn't. It's not that he like necessarily blocks me from doing that stuff, but just having that sentiment in the air, it's like I don't want to create conflict.
Right. Pokemon Go is still a thing?
Yeah.
There was a minute there.
He wants me to delete Pokemon Go.
Oh, so you're still playing it?
I'm still playing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember, like, what was it, like 2017 or something? Like, people, that was like, it had like a virus.
And people hated on it then.
Yeah.
And
You're so defensive already. I didn't say anything about it.
People were so hateful. No, but the thing is like, you look at that shit now and you're like, bitches, you should have been fucking grateful for what we had, this one moment of, like, unity, and y'all had to hate on a trend because you can't be happy about nothing. Like,
Take it easy, bro. I was
Listen, it is a touchy,
so quick.
It's touchy subject. We're
Barely.
getting after it.
Jesus Christ, just go back to your home and
I
go out
know.
of the closet.
Well, I mean, the thing that I hate, I feel like people are just so predictable with how they act. Like, whenever there's something super popular, people have to hate on it.
Right.
And that's what happened with Pokemon Go, which is fine, but now I'm the only one playing it. Nobody talks shit about it. They leave me alone. They let me have my shit. Tyler obviously still talks shit about Pokemon Go, but I love it. Well, actually, I don't even know if I love it. I think that I'm just addicted to it, and
You've been playing consistently since it popped off in like 2017 or whatever it was. Wow,
yeah.
You must have caught a lot of fucking Pokemon, bro.
Yeah, it's been 6 years. It's been close to 6. It has been 6 years. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Did you play it on the Game Boy back in the day?
Yes.
That was my only experience with Pokemon, was like summer road trips with my mom in the minivan, and me and Morgan had a Game Boy.
Yeah.
And there was a blue Pokemon cartridge and a red Pokemon cartridge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I remember playing that and being like, this is fucking horseshit. This game sucks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I loved it.
That shit never resonated for me. I was, you know who I am. I was a pure jock. The only thing that resonated with me was fucking sports video games and sports. It was.
For me, I just love
Grand Theft Auto. I liked Grand Theft Auto a lot.
Yeah. I just love the pet animal that is like your spirit animal. Mm-hmm. I love like which Pokemon you have, what it says about your personality.
Okay.
You know, like there's like
I don't know.
There's like a personality quiz aspect to it for me, where it's like, if Pokemon were real, what Pokemon would you have? Like, that conversation to me is fascinating. Like, I could have that conversation with anybody who's willing to have it.
What's your favorite Pokemon?
Probably Dragonair.
Okay.
Design-wise, I think Eevee... I love the Eevee family. The Eevee family is like... That's the one that, depending on various stones or whatnot, you can evolve it into like 7 or 8 different things.
Got you.
So it can take on different forms and personas. I've always loved that about...
Did you ever get into the cards?
I did, yeah. Okay. I got into the cards.
That's what I remember being like, taking over the fucking recess in elementary school.
Yeah.
Was kids with the fucking cards. I never got the cards.
Oh, yeah. I got the cards, but then I never got...
I mean, I never understood what it did.
Yeah.
Like, you throw one down...
Well, that's the thing, is that's why it never took off for me. Like, I enjoyed the collecting aspect of it. Like, I wanted to get one of all 151. But I didn't know how to play the game of the trading cards, and so that's why once you kept getting Pidgey cards, you're like, okay, every $7 pack I keep getting Pidgeys. Like, I have so many fucking Pidgeys.
Fucking Pidgeys, fuck those guys.
Yeah.
I did get duped into getting a Pokemon card at one point. I was big into trading football cards. with the fellas.
With the dudes, with the man friends. Nice, bro.
And one of my friends who was straddling the line between football cards and Pokemon cards had some super shiny, fucking sparkly Pokemon card, and he's like, dude, this is a super rare card. It's worth X amount of dollars. I'll trade you for your Randy Moss rookie card. And I was like, all right, if you say so, man. And I got duped into it, and I regret it for the rest of my life.
I duped some people. I think, one of my best friends, I duped her out of a Venusaur card in a similar fashion.
Well, I mean, at least you could sleep at night. It was Pokemon for Pokemon. I traded a fucking football card for a fucking shiny little fucking monster card.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I going to do with this?
Right.
I think I threw it away, just so embarrassed that I had done it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry that happened to you.
It's that. Still bouncing back from it.
Yeah.
You said back to your parents' divorce. We'll click to put a little bow on that.
Yeah, let's put a bow on it.
Pretty little bow on that divorce. You said you're blaming your mom. Did that cause a rift in y'all's relationship for a little while?
Oh, for sure.
You weren't talking to her type of shit?
Yeah, icy. Mary Beth was on ice for sure. For
you
sure.
iced her out
for sure.
For months.
Yeah, I'd say I was pretty hard on her for a long time. But I also think that's why we're so close now, was because we were able to overcome such a conflict. That's why whenever I learned this in communication, where you shouldn't be afraid of conflict in relationships, because first of all, it's inevitable. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a conflict with somebody you care about. And it actually, if you can get through the conflict together, then it makes that relationship stronger, because it shows that it can't break easily. Mm-hmm. So I think for us, it ended up being, in the long run, I think it has really worked out, especially because I learned from my mom how to communicate authentically, and she got me into therapy and all of that because I was so icy, and because, Did
she get you into therapy in high school?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And she, especially when I was going through all that anxiety, my senior year, when I was really realizing I was gay, she was like...
You gotta see somebody.
She was getting me to therapy, all the time, to try and figure it out.
Did you guys have to have a sit down at some point to hammer things out, or did it just kind of work itself out over time?
I'd say we had multiple sit down. It wasn't just one heart to heart
regarding your view of her role in the divorce.
Yeah. It wasn't just one heart to heart. It was many conversations. Gotcha.
That's healthy shit, though, man. This is very healthy communication patterns in a relationship with your parents.
Yeah, and it has taught. I think it's really helped me with my own marriage of just talking about shit and not being afraid to talk about shit. Mm-hmm. Let's go to the coming out party. Yes.
You've mentioned coming out senior year. Was there an official thing?
No.
How did that take place?
I was keeping a list on my phone of the people I had told.
Oh, really?
I kept a list of the people I'd told. Okay. And I kept it very small.
It wasn't you put a fucking ad in the newspaper or something?
No. I did not. It
wasn't really so... I guess there was Facebook and MySpace at the time.
There was Facebook, but I wasn't on Facebook. I said I wasn't going to get Facebook until I got into college because I thought it was stupid.
I was the same way.
I was like, we see each other all the time.
Right.
Why would I want to see you again?
Right.
On social media.
Right.
College made sense to me because you're trying to keep in touch with people from high school. Yeah. You're it made sense. Mm-hmm.
It was so... I think I even said initially when I wasn't going to get it. I was that kid, I didn't go to any of the dances until senior prom. I think I told everyone that I'm not getting Facebook. Yeah. And then, dude, it was so exciting to get on Facebook that first time.
Yes.
And you're holy shit. You get to keep it. It was such an entirely new world.
Oh, entirely. And especially, when you're... So I went to USC in California, and all my new friends are on Facebook. That's where you were just friending people. You were just left and right. You were just oh my God, all these people are going to be my friends, And back then, Facebook also had you could search for other gay people or people who marked themselves as gay.
Oh, really?
And that was that was pre-Grindr, that was pre-anything.
Whoa.
And so that was Except for, I don't know if Craigslist was doing the men seeking men thing. I know.
Creepy.
There were not great tools for gay people back in the day.
Craigslist.
But, Craigslist, yeah. And that's how I found this guy named Mark Mayfield, who was from Georgia, and who was gay and was going to USC. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my soulmate.
That must have been like a fucking,
yeah.
Great. Back to the coming out.
Yes.
So who's the first person on the list?
I believe it was aside from my therapist.
Okay.
My therapist was the first person, and his reaction was sort of like, I don't know how you're supposed to react to somebody coming out.
He's like, ew.
No, it was the opposite of like, he was like, my mentor was gay, and, you know, he died of AIDS, but that doesn't mean you're going to.
Whoa!
Yeah, right. It was sort of like, it was like way too much. It was like way too much. It was like way too much for this, like.
Dude, that's like a fucking sitcom.
Yeah. And he was like, don't worry about the fact that you, like, can't have kids, and, like, you know, there are going to be other areas.
Like, bro, I'm not even going
like
there.
he launched into it in a supportive way. Like, he was trying to be supportive.
Right.
But it was, like, just, it threw me for, like, a total tailspin of, like.
No wonder you're missing days of school, dude.
Yeah. Because I said, fuck that therapist, I'm not going back.
Right.
I'm not going back. And so we had to find a new therapist. And for anybody who's tried therapy, you know how hard it is to find a therapist and a good therapist, which we've talked about before, of like somebody who you can connect with, even like as an 18-year-old. But yeah, so he was the first person. Then I believe my friend Nicole Cutts was the second person.
Okay.
And
so then you just started telling your friends.
Yeah, close circle.
Your mom wasn't the first person? Did you?
She was one of the first people.
Oh, but she wasn't like. You told Nicole before your mom.
I think I told Nicole before my mom.
But you got into therapy. Was it more around the divorce that your mom was suggesting you go to therapy?
No, at that time it was coming out. I mean, you know how you fall in and out of therapy sometimes, like. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes you're in it, sometimes you're not. Mm-hmm. Like, so the therapist that I originally went to see during like the divorce era, during the divorce era,
this is post boys.
Yeah, was the same therapist that I went back to, who had the sort of terrible reaction to me,
the AIDS
reaction about being gay. Yeah,
like burning in hell in eternity isn't that bad.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance hell doesn't exist. I mean, it probably does, but maybe
yeah. It's not the tan you're gonna get is going to be amazing.
I mean, God is supposed to be forgiving. I don't know about this issue.
Yeah, we'll see.
But so your mom? Do you think your mom knew you were gay?
I do. Okay. I think I've talked to her about it, like, when did you know? Like, when did you first know? And it's either for her or my brother who said this. But apparently I wanted capri khaki shorts from Kohl's. And that was the indication.
She's like, all right, I'm going to call up Dr. What's-His-Face.
Yeah. So I think that was her confirmation. I forget if that was her confirmation or my brother's confirmation, but it was somebody's confirmation.
Okay.
That, like, okay, this kid is gay.
Did you ever explicitly sit down and tell your brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was top
Man,
10.
so this must have been super anxious.
Oh yeah.
Because once again, I can resonate.
Yeah.
It's a totally different issue, but I was the same way. Coming out of senior year, it's interesting because it's around the same time period too in our lives.
It's a pivotal time.
I knew I had to come out. Actually, I've said this on the podcast before. I've used the term coming out of the closet with telling people about OCD because it actually is really similar.
Yeah. That,
like, I was masking, I was hiding, I didn't want to tell anyone, I was ashamed of it. I was constantly denying to myself that, like, no, this is an issue, this is an issue, this is an issue. I'm going to wash my hands, 50 more times, and that'll be it. That's the last time I'm ever going to do it. And of course, 5 minutes later, I'm checking the door. And then by the time senior year wrapped up, I knew that summer before going off to college, I had to tell someone. Mm-hmm. And it was literally moving my best friend Hunter and Ryan, two of my best friends in high school, moving them into their dorm at Georgia Tech. I knew. And then our other two good friends, the guy, my friend Ben and my friend Lenny, they were at Georgia State, so they're like right next to each other. I knew like exactly what was going to happen. We're going to move him in one night. We're going to walk over to see Buzz and Lenny. And on that walk, I'm going to tell Hunter. And like on that walk, he was the first person before my mom, before I ever even admitted to a therapist. Like, I'm going to tell Hunter that I've been dealing with this essentially my entire childhood. And it was the same thing. And from there, and I was super anxious. And from there, I was like, okay, now I got to tell Lenny. Now I got to tell my mom. Yeah. Now I got to tell Morgan. Right. You know, it was this, like I had a list. The order. And so you had a list as well. Like, okay, I told my therapist. Yeah. Now I got to tell Nicole. That's how it was?
I had the list of people who knew. Mm-hmm. And then I had the list of people I needed to tell. Mm-hmm. And then I was constantly prioritizing and reprioritizing like the list of like who comes next, after this person, you know. Right. And I do think it's easier to come out to a friend as opposed to like a parent or a sibling because there's somebody you trust that isn't necessarily like connected to you permanently. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody from your family has a bad reaction, like that fucking sucks. If a friend has a bad reaction, I get another one. You can get another one. Yeah, you've got more of those.
That's a good point. Yeah. And so this is senior year.
And then
First semester?
No, second semester.
And after that, you're like, okay,
I hated the coming out process so much. Right. I hated talking about it. Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted it to just be out there and be done.
You didn't just entertain, like, fuck, school's almost over, I'm about to go to college, I'm going to go to LA, like, just ignore all this until I get to fucking college.
Kind of. I mean, but there was a part of me that, like, once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. Right. You know? Right. Like, and so
you can't fucking have a conversation with your friend and hang out with your friend without it's eating at you the whole time. Yeah. It's kind of like how I've been the past few months, like, hanging out with you. It's like, I can't just kick it with Alex without talking to him about what's going on inside my head. Right. I get it, yeah.
And also, like, I mean, again, by senior year, people had gotten bored of the conversation about, like, whether Alex is gay or not. Mm-hmm. You know, like, it was kind of just like, how many times are we going to have this conversation? Mm-hmm. You know, like, you can only have it so many times before it's boring. Mm-hmm. So people had sort of stopped asking by senior year, but it still was, the question was still out there. Right. You know?
Did it not start to spread then? From Nicole to so-and-so to so-and-so.
Well, I had hooked up with a guy. Oh. Nicole came with me.
Well, there was like watching.
Yeah. There was a guy who had gotten my number somehow and texted me. Uh-huh. And I was like, fuck off. I didn't curse in high school, so I didn't say fuck off, but my equivalent of whatever that was to be like,
leave me alone.
I don't know who you are. I don't know how you got my number, but leave me alone. Mm-hmm. You know? And it was very, like, rude, shut down. Then, once I started being gay, or... once I started being gay.
Prancing through the halls with my tutu.
Wearing flower crowns, yeah. Then, once I started, like... Right. Realizing, okay, I'm gay. I was addicted to this other gay guy. Mm-hmm. Like, I should be nice to him. And so I texted back and said, hey, like, I'm sorry for my reaction before. Like, I do know who you are. And...
Was this someone at a different school or at our...
No, same our school.
Wow.
At our school. Yeah, so I went to go hang out with him, and I brought my friend Nicole along with me just because I was so nervous.
Chaperone?
And so she was there with me.
Were you excited, though? Did you know shit was going to go down?
No, I didn't. Okay. I didn't. I genuinely didn't.
You didn't bring those condoms your dad got you?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
No, I did not. And also, I mean, at that point, I was going to have sex. I was waiting to have sex till marriage.
Right, that's right.
I was looking for cookie cutter wholesome, you know? Mm-hmm. And so Nicole came with me on that date. She had to go home because she had a curfew, and I was like, I never had a curfew growing up. Mm-hmm. I could do, like, whatever I wanted. Mm-hmm. because I was such a good kid too that like what was I gonna do?
Mm-hmm. Did you go to his house?
So I went to his house. His parent. Well, I won't say who he is just because.
I can tell you're avoiding that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Don't. We're not taking this fucking episode down.
His parents. Yeah. No, I know. I want to make sure that you're able to keep this up. His parents had kicked him out of his house
because he was gay.
Because he was gay.
Wow.
And so he was renting out a basement of somebody's house.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He was a senior too?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's intense fucking shit. Talk about two different, like...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Had he come out of the closet?
Yeah, and so he was out, and he was out at school, but he was not a mainstream kid.
Right.
He was technically in the year ahead of us.
Okay.
But got held back
Gotcha.
because he had started doing drugs and he developed epilepsy
sure.
and just like, and obviously you know why. I mean,
right.
he's dealing with so much, you know? But he wasn't in like the, like I was a recognizable personality. Yeah. I would say.
And just to give some context, like we went to like a standard big ass public.
Big school.
Suburban high school where it's like a fucking like little teenage drama show in some ways where you have the crowds, you have the popular crowd, and you have goths and the jocks and the drama kids. It was, I know what you mean.
There was a lot of overlap, and I was a personality.
I mean, I was like the most popular kid. Just to give like an example.
Yeah, as an example, everyone was obsessed with me. It was really difficult. Honestly, the hardest part about my childhood.
A lot of cheerleaders.
Just that everybody loved me.
A lot of pressure on my end.
I don't mean to be shady towards him to say that he wasn't a mainstream kid, but I know
what you mean.
I was just in every activity. Right. I was like teachers loved me. You know, like. I was the pep rally guy. Like
you were a very prominent figure.
I was the MC of the pep rallies. Like I did a lot of like out there shit.
Yeah. Even you were 2 years younger than me, and you were a prominent figure in kids that were my age. I mean, you were a sophomore, and I was a senior, and people knew who you were. Right. And it wasn't like there was, like I said, I feel like I remember conversations about is he gay type of conversation. Yeah. But it wasn't like a negative thing. Like people knew who you were, and like you had this like vivaciousness about you that people liked.
Yeah. I went to prom every year. Like every single year I was at prom. And so like that's how, and I loved older kids. I loved older kids and like hanging with older kids. Your class, I think in particular, you're 2 years older than me. Yeah. So I was obsessed with your grade. Your grade was like Daniel Chabon and like Alex Couch and Laura Lamellis and like all these kids that I just like. I loved how confident your grade was. Like everybody in your grade just had this like confidence and like yeah.
I remember loving you. I remember like having a great affinity for you and like an attachment, feeling like you were a little brother. I remember like I really do. I remember like having.
Well, I obviously was obsessed with your family, and my brother and I have talked a lot about or he brought this up to me as to like because our parents were divorced, we then glommed onto other families where there was a family unit and a family feeling, and like we felt like the fifth sibling or the additional sibling, and we both have that with multiple families. Like I also love the Harneys and the O'Connells and the Kutzes and like the Bennetts and everyone. Like it was So I was obsessed with your family. Obsessed. Especially
look at my family, like, man, those fuckers are broken. Makes you feel a lot better about yourself.
Well, your family was also super liberal. Yeah. And that was rare. Yeah. Or not, it was more on the rare side than not. Right. And your family also talked about everything. Like, I mean, there was nothing that was off limits in your household, which was very much like mine. In that we talked about everything, we debated everything, you know, all of that. So it was just a very familiar feeling that I had over at your house and with all the sibs.
Go back to this first hookup.
Oh yeah, how did I get off of that?
I don't remember. Oh, we started talking about, you call them non-mainstream, and we started.
Yes. So I went over to his... Again, this was just to talk. Like, this was just to talk to another gay person.
Right.
No, it wasn't. I mean, genuinely.
I know.
Genuinely. And, like, then I'm telling him about this crush. How I realized I was gay was I developed this crush on this guy. And so I was talking about, like, how I realized it. And, you know, we're being open and vulnerable with each other. And then I was just like, can I kiss you?
You said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just said, like, can I kiss you? Just so nervously and, like, so, like, whatever. And we, like, made out for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he tried to escalate it. But I was so wholesome. And this was the first thing I'd ever done with a guy. And so I just was, like... I kept rejecting, but I was just loving making out.
Okay, I was about to ask, how did you feel?
I loved it.
Liberating.
It was like...
Exhilarating.
It clicked. It just clicked. And it was this thing of like... Of course I'm gay.
Right.
It was like, of course I'm gay. Like this... Yeah. I mean, of course. It just felt like... Right. You know? And I don't know if straight people could ever know what that feels like because I had made out with girls previous to that, and like I just assumed that that's what
it felt like.
I assumed that's what kissing was with anyone, regardless, you know? Like I would assume if you had been forced to kiss guys all your life and then all of a sudden you kiss a girl and you're like, whoa, that's so different. Yeah. No, you would just be like, that's so different. And that's how it felt like kissing him for the first time.
Yeah, there's no equivalent, I don't think, for a straight person.
Anyway, so I do... how this came up was you asked if it started like spreading around that I was gay. Because he sort of wanted to develop a relationship after that.
Right.
After the fact. And I was very much like... I kind of just want to be friends. Like, I'm going through a lot right now. Like, I'm having a hard time processing this whole gay thing. Like, I don't want a relationship.
Was he out of the closet to, like, the school? Was it, like, known? This guy?
He was, but again, it was
no
like...
one knew who the fuck he was.
Nobody really knew who he was. Yeah. So, it was... So with his friends...
Yeah, Timmy, we got it!
Right.
Go back in your corner.
Yeah. But with his friends, he was talking about it.
Right.
He was talking about the fact that we hooked up.
Right.
And, like, because he's not closeted.
Right.
And so...
Oh, sorry, you said that with his parents, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I should mention, like... So I slept over at his place, and I woke up to text messages and calls being like, where are you? My car is broken. My mom's car had broken down on like the side of the road.
Oh shit! Like, you spent the night over there.
Yeah.
And y'all like slept in the same bed?
We slept in the same bed.
And like cuddling and shit?
Yes.
Whoa.
But
that's pretty intense.
It was a lot. I mean, my mind was racing. I'm going to hell. Like, you know, like I was in like I didn't sleep that night, essentially.
I bet not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because I wanted to ask you how it felt. Just the kissing, and you were talking about that, like it feeling like right, and of course I'm gay.
Yeah.
And then my next question, like, was there a sense of shame and
guilt?
Yeah.
Then there was the aftershock of like the shame and the oh god, what have I done?
Pretty much how I feel anytime I have sex with somebody.
Exactly.
Like, fuck!
Exactly.
Get me out of here.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't have sex, but
you only made out.
We only made out,
right.
And like he said, I mean, he kept trying to do more and go for more, and like, I mean,
I'm surprised you didn't come in your pants.
So I wasn't gonna say this because I wasn't sure like how if I
mean, you know me, I'll take whatever detail you want.
But it is the worst case of blue balls
I would imagine
ever experienced. Like so painful.
I'm surprised you didn't just go to the bathroom and rub one out.
I tried to.
Oh really?
I don't know if I can talk about all this stuff. But I tried to, but the anxiety. So it was a combination. The anxiety was keeping me.
Right. I get it.
I couldn't come because I was so anxious. But then on the flip side, like I was obviously in a hot situation, and yeah, it was very, very, very painful.
Shit, dude.
Yeah,
I can't imagine.
Yeah, very, very painful. Anyway, so my mom's car had broken down on the side of the road the next morning, and she was like calling me, being like, "Where are you? I need a ride. Like, what's going on? Why aren't you answering your phone? Blah 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 blah." So I come home in like a daze. My mouth.
Oh shit! I would make you up for hours.
Is red. It is red. And also what people don't tell you about making out with guys is that the stubble.
Yeah.
The stubble, I had been it turned me on, but then also it was just so...
Yeah, you were raw and chapped.
I was raw and chapped and whatever. And the first thing my mom says when she sees me, she goes, "What happened to your mouth? Like, what happened to your face?" And I said, "Oh, I had pasta last night." What? I had pasta last night for dinner.
Sauce?
Marinara sauce. My excuse.
And I'm a toddler and I don't wipe my face.
Yeah, because I panicked. I totally panicked, and I was like, "Oh, I had pasta the night before." Yeah.
Was she like, okay?
Yeah, no, she was already dealing with this car situation.
Yeah,
so she was like, I'm not gonna unpack this.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna buy your weird ass. Or she didn't buy it, but she was just like, obviously there's something there you don't want to talk about, so.
Had you told her you were gay at that point yet?
No, but then after that, because then the night was just replaying over and over and over in my head, you know, and just the shame spiral. I was in just like such a shame spiral, and I think I came to her in like total tears, you know, like having to talk about it, you know, because I also had been taught to share everything that I feel. So like, for me to not express how I feel is very painful. Like I have a hard time not saying everything that I feel and everything that I think. And so I went to her crying, and that's when I told her about that I was gay, or that I was bi. I told her I was bi. I thought I might be bi. And
were you just like couching it to?
I think
for her?
I think at that point for myself I was willing to accept that I'm bi because I'd been watching years of straight porn. I couldn't just suddenly be gay, you know. So I thought that I was bi, genuinely thought I was bi, and we sort of had a discussion. I told her about the experience with the guy in the basement, and she was like, okay. And she's also the one who's been taking me to all my therapy appointments, and like, she's been by my side this entire time, you know? And, like, almost as like my manager, you know? And so like, she knows that this is about to get out, that the news is probably going to start spreading, that she told me that after the fact. She didn't tell me that in that moment, you know. This kid is already anxious enough. She's not going to add to my plate by being like, you know,
you gotta get AIDS.
Exactly that. She had the better response than the therapist, where she didn't like offload all of this anxiety shit on top of what I was going through. And so so she sort of knew that would happen, and it did to an extent, especially because the guy wanted a relationship, and I did not, and I was going through...
This is already like a big step.
Yeah. And so...
Not to start holding hands with this guy in the hallway.
Yeah, and so then he got sort of bitter about that, about the fact that he was the only gay guy in the school, and like, why would nobody just come out and be gay? Like... And I imagine, like, in his position, like, that is so frustrating. I can't imagine how frustrating
he feels like he's finally found
someone.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's been abandoned by his fucking family, dude. Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. And, like, he told me about all these other, like, closeted people at the school and, like, these other experiences.
He had hooked up with other dudes at the school? Got you.
And, yeah, and so I can empathize with where he was at, you know, and then school ended, but I didn't want to do a big coming out thing. I didn't want to eat crow and like be like, you guys got me. You were right all along, you know. Right. I much rather, and what I ended up doing was just going to California, and people would ask, "Are you gay?" And I'd just be like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And like I wasn't coming out to them, and then it just sort of was exactly what I wanted, where people just knew.
Had you already decided you were going to go to USC prior to this coming out experience?
USC came in the midst of all of this.
And was the fact that you were gay a huge reason why you wanted to go to LA?
Yes.
Okay.
I had always been told growing up that I belonged in California. I was out of place in Georgia. I didn't fit in, clearly. Okay. And I would have a much easier time. How it was told to me is I would have a much easier time in California.
Who's telling you this?
Just teachers around, you know, people. Okay. People just say things. Like there are certain attitudes that we have in society where you don't know why we have this collective opinion, but we do, you know?
I mean, people have told me that as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you should move out to the West Coast sort of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, for different reasons, but...
Yeah, right. Well, and then I'd have some teachers who, when they found out I was going to USC, they would be like, why would you ever want to go to California with all the fruits and the flies? Or, yeah, the fruits and the... Fruits and flies or fruits and freaks? There's some expression.
I'm neither of those things, I don't know.
I'm both of those things, so... So I 100% belong here. But
was that the only sexual quote unquote experience you had in high school, or did it reoccur?
No, I would say that's my only sexual.
And it was just one time with that dude.
It was just one time with that dude.
Wow.
I mean, I made out with my girlfriend, as I mentioned before.
But, so homosexual, I should say. You didn't. Yeah. There weren't any other dudes.
But even, yeah. I mean, when I think sexual, I think below the belt.
Right.
Stuff like kissing to me is not
right.
And like I mean, because I guess it wasn't technically sexual with the guy because we didn't do anything below the belt, but he did touch me down there. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you know, that was the first time anybody had touched me. You know. After
that, you weren't just like chomping at the bit to like do it again, and no.
No, I had so much anxiety. I had so much anxiety.
Is that when you started missing school?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I had started missing school once I was attracted to the guy. Uh-huh. The straight guy. Once I was attracted to the straight guy.
Oh, the first guy you realized you had a crush on.
The first guy I had a crush on.
Gotcha.
And,
it's just like, you just don't want to deal with this.
I didn't want to deal with it. I hated myself for being this way. Everything that anyone had said about me negatively was true.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
All the people who had come up to my locker and called me a faggot or whatever.
So that would happen in high school?
Yeah.
People would call you a faggot openly?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Every day.
Every day?
Every day. Every day, I would say. It was a weird juxtaposion because on one hand, I was so beloved by the school and by people. But then on the other side, I was and that's why I identified with Britney Spears so much, was because she had the same thing going on, where she was beloved, and then at the same time she was so hated, and I identified with that position. Not to say I was a celebrity, but just in
kind of a little bit.
I mean, in the school, I was known.
Well, I'm saying like it sounds very high schooly, but like it's true. Like it's not common for seniors to be like aware of this sophomore,
right,
and like respect him in this way, or like know him, as like this prominent figure. Yeah, but you were.
I don't know if I was respected. I would say I was like the class jester. I was like the school jester, almost.
Yeah, I think I was similar for my class.
Yeah, similar. Where it's like, I wasn't...
But respect, like, in a way that, I don't know, maybe I'm viewing the past through rose-colored glasses, but...
Yeah.
That's how I felt about it. I thought, but that to me is respect. It's like, oh, this funny, eccentric dude who's like, I thought, ironically enough, who's not afraid to be himself.
Yes. That's always been the juxtaposition with me, though, even to this day, is people think I'm extremely confident. But then I also don't believe in myself at all.
Right.
Simultaneously.
I'm the same way.
Simultaneously. And it's sort of weird to hear when someone who you think is confident say that. But it's true. And I certainly didn't feel respected at the time. I mean, it's nice to hear in retrospect and with rose-colored glasses that I might be respected, but...
That's how I felt. I mean, once again, who knows? It's kind of like your first memory type of thing. How did you truly feel? But
right.
That's how I feel now.
Well,
so
and the truth
that's what fucking matters.
And the truth is so ambiguous because you might have felt that way towards me, but the overall opinion towards me wasn't...
Well, I know for a fact among my closest friends, I can't say about like someone I was mentioning earlier, like kind of peripheral friends, but among my closest friends, like Hunter and Lenny and Ryan and those guys, it was like respect and affection. Yeah. Like, look at this kid. Aww. Like this funny kid who's not afraid to be himself. That's what it was. It was a positive thing. Yeah. Now, I'm sure there were derogatory comments.
Yeah. Well, now that's the thing is that I had both coming at me. And I've always had a hard time, even today, knowing how people feel about me. Because I do have both coming at me.
Dude, people are calling you faggot on a daily basis? Yeah. Like, in what context? Like, I think, are they... Now,
every context.
Faggot was a different word back then. And now...
Right. And that... Exactly. And it was being used much more frequently back then.
I used faggot on a daily basis back then, I'm sure. Yes. Never towards someone I thought was gay. Never once have I used the word faggot towards a gay person. I've used it amongst my friends. Right. It was like calling someone, I don't know, like... It wasn't bro. It was like derogatory in a way, but in like a playful way. But people, when they were calling it to you, did you feel like they were trying to hurt your feelings?
It just hits different. And people knew it hit different.
Gotcha.
And... there was one time where a popular girl once said, if it's not true, then why does it hurt your feelings?
Oh, shit.
That type
That's like a line from fucking OC or something.
that type of... And I was like... And then it just became impossible to know how I felt. I mean, this was why why it was such a mindfuck. Right. Is because you're like... trying to not make this negative thing true about yourself. And then if you feel hurt, then you're admitting to the fact that it's true. It's just such a mind... It was such a mindfuck, for sure. For sure.
But was there, like, overt bullying?
Yeah.
From, like, I would,
I mean,
it's... a jockey type guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's to... read back on journals and stuff, it was like, I was treated shittily by people, and sometimes it was overt, or it'd be something like, a guys stealing each other's cell phones to text me, like, want to meet for a blowjob behind the school, but joking, like, playing pranks on each other, like their friends, trying to get the gay kid to, like, I'll give you a blow, to one of the popular jocks or whatever. Right. There was that, but then there's also the invisible forces of, like, you can just tell people are uncomfortable by who you are and how you are. So it was a whole variety.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And people I don't know, people I wouldn't know. Right. Too.
Right, because you were probably, like, people knew who you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
So going off to college must have been a fucking relief.
Yes, it was.
Is that how you felt?
That's how I felt.
Fucking excited as shit.
Well, I mean, I had lost so much weight from all the anxiety. Yeah. I was rail thin. I mean, my mom was so worried about me. She was so worried about me. I didn't know if I would make it. Like,
what do you mean, in college?
No,
through high school.
Through high school.
Right.
I was so depressed and so anxious. I didn't know. I mean, I wanted to die.
And there wasn't any relief coming from telling people, or it just made it worse?
There was.
Now people know.
No, there was. And, like, as we inched closer and closer to graduation, it was like, just get me past that finish line. Yeah. And so, USC was a major release. I started, I just gained all this weight back. And I was making friends with everybody on campus. Like, I was... What I was at Centennial, I became at USC, like, in a similar way, where I just wanted to be a big personality at USC. And it was great. But this time I got to do it, like, without debates about my sexuality and all of that. Like, I didn't have any of that. People still didn't like... There were some people who still didn't like me. I'm always going to be that way. Where certain...
But not to do with your sexuality.
Not to do with my sexuality, yeah.
And you were involved in drama and theater and stuff in high school, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you study when you went to USC? What did you do?
Communication and film production. I got into the film school.
And that was what you were freshman year from the jump?
No. So I went undecided. I was like, I just need to get the fuck out of Georgia. I need to get to California. And then that was step one. Then once I was there, I was like, well, it's an expensive-ass school. I better, like, get my shit together and know, like, what I'm studying.
And you had visited before?
I had visited before and just fell in love. Fell in love. I mean, like, USC's campus, on campus, is beautiful.
Okay. Were you living in a dorm your freshman year?
Dorm my freshman year, yeah.
Did you have a roommate?
I had 8... There were 8 people in our suite, and then 2 people per room.
Okay.
So it was like 4 rooms inside, like, they were grouped together by 4 rooms. Okay. Everything. So, 8 people in my suite, shared a room with one other person. Okay. And then we had, like, a little common area.
Was it all dudes or co?
All dudes.
All dudes.
All dudes.
But you were who you were from the jump.
I was who I was from the jump, except for the fact that, like... Okay, I'll step it back. I was kind of who I was. Okay. I didn't quite yet know how to... It wasn't as simple as me just saying, hi, my name is Alex, and yes, I am gay. You know, like when people would ask. Because I still hadn't figured out how to, like, handle that situation. One of my roommates who was gay assumed that I was gay, rightly so, said, let's go out to the bars in West Hollywood. And I was like, okay, great. I didn't know anything about West Hollywood. I didn't know what West Hollywood was. We're going to go to a place called Rage. Okay, great. A club called Rage in West Hollywood. Let's go. This is amazing. I'm 18.
This is like
in Los Angeles. This is first couple weeks. We show up. I start seeing, like, shirtless...
Go-go dancers.
Go-go dancers and guys and, like, whatever. And I'm like... Oh,
it's a gay bar.
Fuck. It's a gay bar. I'm not ready for this. Like, this is too much. Like, this is a lot. But I'm not gonna, like, bail. I'm cool, you know? Like, I'm gonna be cool. Like, I'm a cool college kid now, and I can handle shit like this. And so I'm, like, in line to go in, and, like, we went with a bunch of girls, too, so I felt I took a lot of comfort in that. And, you know, we get inside and I'm just, like, mesmerized by everything. But it literally feels like I'm my wholesome Georgia self feels like I'm going to one of the circles of hell. Like, it looks so hedonistic and it's so sexual. Like, the bodies and the alcohol and the everything, you know? And we go in and we're dancing and, like, I'm dancing with the girls, like, really closely. Like, I'm grinding with the girls and I'm like, I'm just gonna grind with girls because that's what I did in high school and, like, whatever. And there's this guy who, like, locks eyes with me and he's, like, creepy. He's, like, a creepy as fuck dude. Like, you can just tell.
My kind of guy.
Yeah, totally. And, but there's also this super hot guy dancing right next to me and I'm like, oh, I, like, kind of want to dance with him. But then I see he's dancing with this super old guy who's, like, way older than he is. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what world am I in? Anyway, so this guy the creepy guy who made eye contact with me is, like, zeroing in on me and, like, comes...
Inching closer
and closer and closer. And, like, taps... Gosh, I should figure out how to tell this story. But he taps me on the shoulder. I don't turn around. He taps me on the shoulder. I don't turn around. And then he scoops my balls, like he, like, from behind.
Whoa.
And I felt very...
This is my kind of...
I felt...
That's my move. I invented that move.
I felt very violated.
Yeah, no shit.
And I was like, what the fuck? And then I get tapped again, and I turn around, and he's gone. He's left. And the hot guy had tapped me on the shoulder.
Okay.
And he said... Yo, dude, we're having a barbecue down in Laguna, like, this weekend if you want to come. And I was like,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. No, it was, and that was amazing. And, like, it was like this little slip of paper that said, Hot Go-Go Boys, Laguna, blah, blah, blah. And I've, like, taped it up. I still have it in a journal of mine.
Oh, really?
Like, I taped it into my journal, this, like, little slip of paper. I didn't end up going. But...
Why not?
Because I didn't have a car,
okay.
I wasn't out,
right?
You know, and I still was weirded out by by everything.
There's a lot.
And, like, especially with the guy scooping my balls like that,
right.
Like, I was, like, so freaked out by that. So tremendously freaked out by that. I told the girls, I want to go home.
Oh, really?
Like, I can't be here. Like, this is too much for me. Like, I'm freaking out. Like, you know, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, just drink more alcohol.
Oh,
just drink more alcohol. And so I did. I drank more alcohol and I was fine. And, like, I danced and, like, we then went home when things shut down, you know? And I later told my roommate, I said, yo, dude, that was really not cool. Like, I'm not out yet. And, you know.
So you weren't out yet?
I was on that cusp where it was like, I technically am. And, like, really, it's kind of like...
But this roommate clearly knew.
He clearly knew, and I was clearly the idiot in this situation.
Right.
I mean, he was very much in the right. He made the right assumption about me. He made the right decision. He, like, couldn't have known that I wasn't... I gave all signs that I was out, and that, like, I come across as a very confident person,
right.
And so, like... It doesn't seem like I would be a person that had any reservations. And cut to a couple years later, I had the same experience happen to me where I brought somebody who I thought was gay. I made the assumption was gay. I brought them to a gay club. And they were like, whoa, I'm not gay. And I was like, oh. My bad. I was like, well, do you want to just come in anyway? And, like, I mean, you don't have to do anything. Like, we can just dance and, like, have fun. The dude ends up making out with guys the entire night. So I was like...
So he was gay.
He was gay, but I helped him...
Right.
Anyway, so it's a weird thing with the gay identity where it's like... Anyways, I had the same thing happen to me, and, like, the person who's closeted is going to get angry with you for making them come out and making them acknowledge a part of themselves that they're trying to hide. You know, it's very classic with closeted people. Right. It's like they want you to bring them out, but then at the same time they're like, they don't want to come out.
At what point did you start? Is it by, like, as freshman year's unfolding? Are you, like, blossoming?
I'd say I blossomed pretty quickly.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I still had that mentality of I'm not gonna have sex until I'm married.
Oh shit.
For a while.
Around a week.
No, for a while. I mean, it wasn't until I had my first boyfriend the second semester of
that was the
freshman
year
year.
you had sex with.
And that's the first person I had sex with, yeah.
And it was like a boyfriend.
It was a boyfriend.
So, like, you guys were, like, had like a dating courtship process before you ever had sex?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Isn't
that so nice?
So it was my experience.
Yeah. But I had such a wholesome image of myself that I was trying to uphold that, like, I was very upset that I had sex before being married.
Wow.
I was very upset. So that was tough for me too. I mean, unpacking, like, the South and, like, where we came from has been difficult for me. But because I've been here since I was 18, I feel like I've had a great balance of, like, growing up with these conservative, wholesome values, but then also growing up in LA more authentically as myself and having the freedom to explore without stigma, you know? And being able to, like, if I wanted to get into some sort of kink or whatever, or some, like, leather community, you know, if that was my thing, then I could do it.
1000%.
You know, then I could, like, do that and try that out. And, you know, if I wanted to get involved in that community and make it my identity, you know, I could. And I wouldn't get any judgment over here for it. Whereas, like, if I were in the South, you can't join a leather community. What?
Leather community.
You're going to join a leather community? Like, no. I mean, and there might be leather communities in
They're
Georgia.
underground.
I mean, all the pride to them. Like, I think that they should.
Well, in Atlanta, I'm sure there is now.
I'm sure there might be now, and maybe attitudes have changed. That's the other thing is, like, people keep telling me that Georgia has changed so much from when we were there and when we were.
I mean, Atlanta. I don't know about Georgia. Atlanta is, you know, you go to certain parts, it's very, very, very gay.
Yeah.
So freshman year's wrapping up, and you're like, I'm in the right place. I've made the right decision.
Yes.
This is my place.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sophomore year, did you still live on campus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you?
Lived on campus. I did not get the RA position that I was going for, and I was devastated by that because I'm somebody who has. At that point in my life, I had gotten most of the things I went after.
Right.
And so to not get something was devastating. And, like, anyways. So I wasn't an RA that year, but then I was an RA the following year. Okay. And I hated it. So, like...
Yeah, dude, I would hate that.
I mean, it's awful being an RA.
A police officer for other fucking kids?
It's... Yeah, for college kids, like, no thank you.
Where did you live sophomore year?
It was this apartment complex called Cardinal Gardens.
Okay. You lived off in an apartment. Okay.
It was just off campus.
Okay.
Just off campus, but basically on campus. And then my junior year, I was an RA for that same apartment complex.
Oh, so it was like student housing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was student housing. And then my senior year, I lived in a house with five girls. Okay. And it was amazing. That was my favorite year of college.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you 4 years to graduate?
And that's when I broke up with the boyfriend.
Oh, so you dated him freshman year up until senior year?
Up until junior year.
Okay.
So senior year was when I was, like...
Out and about.
I had done P90X. That's when I discovered P90X. That's when, like, I no longer was a skinny... I've been a skinny twig my entire life. And that's when I, like, got really jacked. And, like... Attractiveness has always been, like, a weird thing for me because I was never viewed that way growing up. And so, like, all of a sudden, my senior year, I was attractive to other people. Right. And, I mean, I guess obviously my boyfriend was attracted to me, and there were guys who were attracted to me before that. But,
you weren't hooking up with any other dudes while you're dating this guy? It was just monogamous relationship with your boyfriend? Cool.
But, yeah,
as you become aware of your attractiveness, is that what contributed to the end of that relationship?
No, the only reason I stammered a little bit there is because he asked me at the end... I don't want to make any sort of allegations against... I might have been cheated on is what I'm saying. Okay. I might have been cheated on. I'm not sure if I was or not. I have evidence there's a part of me that believes that I was cheated on. But from my side of things, it was monogamous. Okay. And it's possible that on his side of things were monogamous too. But
he asked you something at some point?
He asked me if I had ever cheated on him. Okay. When we broke up at the end.
And it felt like he was
and I was like, of course offended. I was like, are you kidding me? I would never do that. Like, I would never do that. So I was super offended. And then I realized from an experience... basically, I got drinks with one of my ex-boyfriend's other ex-boyfriends after I graduated, long time after. Okay. And he essentially was like, we belong together, me and your ex-boyfriend. and we always like. I shouldn't go into all of this, but...
Okay, don't. So I want you to take this fucking thing down.
Yeah, I shouldn't go into all
this.
this.
But it made you feel like you'd been cheated.
But it did make me... The conversation with him made me feel like, oh, this is why he asked me at the end if...
Right.
This is why. At least that's what I think. But,
okay.
Yeah.
What was like your... So a few things. How were your like grades and academic career?
Amazing.
At USC, which is good.
Yeah.
So you're a good student.
I've always been an amazing student.
Okay. And you enjoyed school?
I love school. I love school. I love learning things. I love debate. I love writing, you know. And I also love structure. Like the structure of,
Me too,
of
dude.
school.
That's what I miss.
And having a syllabus and a calendar and dates and due dates and, you know, deadlines and paper, you know, like all of that I do really well with. And
it's hard to be an adult without that shit, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once I got my OCD under control and started taking medication, well, I kind of got it under control freshman year, and then it started coming back bad sophomore year, and I got a medication sophomore year, and that just took care of the OCD, dude. It was the first time in my life where I was like, doing school how it was supposed to be done. Before that, I was just drowning because I couldn't fucking read or write or anything. Dude, I loved it, the college. Exactly what you're saying, the structure of it. Here's a syllabus, here's what we're studying, this is what we're going to study week 1 and week 2, and this is when your first papers. Dude, oh my God, I fucking love that shit. Yeah. And then I guess when I went into teaching, I created that environment for other people.
Yes.
And then since I've gotten out of teaching, it's like, oh, fuck, I struggle as an adult to create that environment for myself.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to join the army or something.
Oh my God. That's why a lot of people do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's why a lot of people do, is because it gives you an immediate sense of purpose. It gives you an immediate structure.
Discipline.
Yeah. I know. And when I graduated, I did not have that, and it was very difficult.
We'll get into that in just a second.
Okay.
Your social life in college with this boyfriend. So let's say freshman through junior year. What was your social life like, and like going out and...
I was still very activity based. Okay. I mean, I have always been a go person with 10 different plates spinning and projects here and there. I was on a dance team. I was in RA. I was in student government. And those were all my social life. Okay. All of that. And then, just partying with friends. Okay. All the time, like every weekend, you know?
Like going out in LA, house parties? What's
house
the
parties.
House parties.
It was all house parties, and you know, I didn't have a car, and LA was so expensive that it really was just off-campus parties for the most part, and like going to different houses. I mean, there were the frat parties that you would sometimes go to. That was more so if you were a freshman, you would go to that, and I think I tapped out of those at some point because I just was like, you know. But yeah, so that was the social scene.
Was it a big shift in senior year when you were single and jacked?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it was just like I was suddenly getting all this attention, and I was free to do whatever I wanted, and so like that's when I could like hook up with the most amount of people, you know? And
like other college students?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, there's plenty of gay dudes at USC, right?
Yeah. And that's around the time that Grindr was released.
So your senior year would have been, what, 2012?
2011, 2012.
Yep.
And Grindr had just been released, but at the time it was still very like...
beta
It felt like Craigslist. Right. It felt a little bit like...
creepy.
Oh, so there's an app to meet up and have immediate sex? Like, that does not fit the cookie cutter wholesome image.
This is what my therapist warned me about.
Yeah. This is not my identity for myself. Right. Like, I'm not going to be on that app. But that app was created at that time, and it just added an element of like who is out there. I still didn't.
There's a dude 30 feet away who wants to fuck me.
Yes. It seemed like... Yeah. And again, kind of like Facebook in high school, I was like, why do I want to be on this thing? I see all of you out here anyway. Right. I see you all at the parties anyway. Why would I want an app for that? And so I didn't have Grindr until I graduated college. Because then I was out in the open world, you know, like, where people are everywhere. Whereas college, it's contained. You know who all the gay people are, and, like, yeah. But it was good. I mean, I still wasn't, like, I still was finding myself, I think, sexually. But, you know, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. My senior year was a lot of fun.
That was your favorite?
Favorite year of maybe even my life.
Yeah.
I would say. Like, it was a great year for me. We lived next to the water polo house. Like, they would have parties all the time. The girls that I lived with were just amazing. And, like, I was obsessed with them. And they loved exploring. And, like, they got me out of the house, trying new restaurants, trying different things. Like, you know, I was somebody who just ate buttered noodles and pasta, you know? And then I cut that out because of the P90X diet. And so I could only eat protein and vegetables and fruits, basically. But yeah, it was a great year. And I think even some people from high school came and visited us. And, like, I had gotten some of the girls in the house into P90X, too. And so, like, these people from Georgia came... We're all eating healthy. Like, nobody's eating anything.
Oh, shit.
Like, with...
Senior year. Damn.
Well, we're drinking, like, fish. But, we're all working out like crazy. And my friends from Georgia come and they go, you Californians are...
insane.
Crazy.
Right.
Crazy. Yeah, like, it's so different than the UGA mindset, at least from what I've seen, is very, like... Everybody wears those salty dog oversized t-shirts with the Sophie shorts.
Not everybody.
Okay, the stereotype.
Okay, no, you're right.
Okay.
I went to Georgia too. That was not my vibe. But no, you're right. You're right. Generally speaking, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was very much just in terms of, like, health and fitness, like, you know, because I was in the gym regularly with all of the bros, but it wasn't like there was no nutrition aspect to it. It was like lifting heavy weights, you know, squatting and bench pressing, but like then we're eating fucking chicken wings and fucking pizza and hot dogs. It's very interesting to hear you say in senior year you guys like watching your diet and shit. Like that stuff I didn't even become aware of, like, broader wellness.
Oh my gosh, we were so disciplined. Yeah. We were so disciplined.
It's so LA.
It's so LA.
Yeah,
it is
that's
so
cool
LA.
though.
Is it?
I mean, that's what I'm into now.
Yeah,
but it took me to, like, till I was like 24, like my first couple years out of college to, you know, become aware of that kind of stuff. And that's like such a foreign concept to me to think, like, I lived in a house of all bros in my senior year, to think that, like, we would have been watching our diet and, like, our protein intake is, like, seems literally laughable.
Yeah.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
I wish I would have been there with y'all. I would have been all about it.
It was great. I mean...
House of 5 Girls, too, at USC.
It was everything. It was everything. I miss it. I miss it so much.
I hear you,
It's so great.
I hear you, dude.
And I always like, whenever I'd be like, y'all are losers for missing college.
Right.
Like, what's wrong with you? Like, when adults would say shit like, this is these are the best years of your life.
Yeah.
I'd be like, then just make a better life. Like, what are you complaining about?
Yeah.
But, like... The real world is so hard, and I felt like I feel people talk about the real world being hard, but then, like, feeling it was a whole other level.
Yeah, man, looking back in college now, I mean, it's incredibly nostalgic. I mean, to think that I mean, I had to work, like, I had to work study jobs, but, like, for the most part, I have to go to class and then, go to the gym and hang out with the fellas.
Yeah, the fellas. I love that you're bringing fellas back. Like, you're, like, all about that 1950s.
And that's it. And then the weekends, like, you're going to be partying. Like, and it's, like, it's there, right there for you.
Right.
Especially where I'm in now in life, where, have the last, 6 to 8 months of my life has unfolded. Just to think that was even, like, that was a life. It seems like a different planet.
I've been feeling that way a lot recently, too, of just sort of this... like, I feel like for a while with this COVID shit, it's been like I've been in it and dealing with it, and now I'm experiencing the loss. Yeah. Now I'm realizing the loss of, like, all of that and that life from before and what was. Like, I mean, I even tried going out this past weekend, and like, there's just a palpable anxiety, and there's far less people, there's far less energy, excitement, trust in other people.
I feel like I'm gonna cry as you're talking.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, keep doing it. Keep doing it.
But yeah, it's just
we need to talk about it. You're right.
It's such a difference in.
That is my lifeblood of existence.
Yeah.
Is that energy?
Is that
being
energy
around those people?
Yeah.
Being in those environments, just surrounding myself with people, meeting strangers, laughing, partying. That is like that to me is what life is. That is the heartbeat of existence to me. And you're right. It is. I know it's different depending on the city or country or whatever. But in LA, and it's probably particularly pronounced. But like you can feel it. It's something has died, and I hope it comes back. But yeah,
you feel it, and I mean, I felt it in the Outer Banks too when I recently went to the Outer Banks in North Carolina, because there's also more so over there than there is over here. Over here, it's more like a latent depression. Mm-hmm. But what I more so felt in the Outer Banks, where some people are wearing masks, some people are not. There's an anger. There's an anger that people are carrying that
from both sides.
That you
why
feel.
Aren't you wearing masks?
Yes.
Why are you being a pussy?
Yes. On both sides, where it's like a palpable, defiant energy. Mm-hmm. The whole divisive thing. There's that energy that's just like in the air, and that you just like feel when you're going to the grocery store. Mm-hmm. So like, even though the Outer Banks was beautiful, it was amazing, and I loved it, and I had so much fun. There's just an energy out there where it's like, you used to go on vacation and it was like totally fun. Mm-hmm. You could totally let go, relax. Even like the activities that we did in the house that we were in, it was like, who's comfortable with what? Can we go out to a restaurant all together? Yeah. And like, I think we stayed a lot at the house. For that reason. I think had it been pre-COVID, we probably would have gone out to more restaurants. Mm-hmm. We probably would have seen some live music somewhere, Mm-hmm.
Dude, I just went for like a run this morning.
Yeah.
And I do this, generally speaking. Before COVID, I've always been like this. Like, if I pass someone, I look them in the eyes and I say hello. Or like this morning, I say good morning. And I was like started to keep count. I probably passed, let's say it was 10 people that I looked in the eye and said good morning. Probably 8 of them, 0 response.
Yeah.
Like, not even acknowledging that another human being had looked them in the eyes and greeted them. And it's like, I know that's, on one hand, like, it's in some ways maybe an LA thing. Just generally, people are like less friendly, and it's not fucking Atlanta or the South. People are just kind of less friendly, but also it's a COVID thing. I ran past one person.
Yeah. Oh no.
She's pushing a baby, and I looked her in the eyes, and granted I'm jogging, but like it's good morning, eye contact, and like in a wave, right?
Yeah.
I make it unambiguous that I'm trying to be a friendly human being.
Yeah.
She was walking silently. I run past her, like I'm approaching her. I say good morning. As I say good morning, she starts going,
no.
Like she had some sort of like short circuit that like a stranger was interacting with her, like literally like a severely, like Rain Man type, severely autistic shit, like out loud, like this like hum to like, I guess like block out the noise of other human interaction. Good morning.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Another guy, at one point I stopped him while I run, and I started running sprints across this empty baseball field. And a guy came with his son onto the baseball field. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to let them use the baseball field. I'll stop running. So I started like jogging off the baseball field, but I passed them as I'm like exiting the baseball field. Same thing. Looked at the guy. Actually, it happened twice. When they first stepped on the field, I was like finishing up my last sprint, and I said, good morning. No response. Then I like do a sprint backwards. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave these guys alone, and I'm gonna exit the baseball field. And I was like, maybe he didn't hear me, but now I'm gonna like run a little experiment. Look at him again. Morning. No response. Dude, I wanted to stop and be like, bro, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
Like, bro, we're all going through a tough time here.
Right.
I am trying to be a friendly human being. I'm not coming up to make out with you.
Right.
You know, I'm 20 feet away. Like, nothing here. Nothing.
Yeah.
No acknowledgement of our mutual
Shared
humanity.
humanity.
Oh.
You know, and RuPaul says something about that. He says the greatest and most simple gift that we can give each other is the acknowledgement of another person's existence.
Exactly. And I'm not saying I'm fucking Mother Teresa, but I promise you, every time I leave the house, especially during these times, I make an effort to look people in the eye and at least smile, say hello, good morning, for that exact reason. Yeah. That, like, I'm a human being, you're a human being, whether or not you're a fucking homeless person or you're wearing fucking Versace. Yeah. Like, what's up? Right. We're both human beings on this fucking... You know, none of us know what the fuck is going on out here. Right. Especially now.
It's already so tough. Why make it tougher?
Yeah.
Well, keep doing it.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop. Yeah. But yeah, it's...
Yeah, when I saw RuPaul at the Dolby Theater, I was working an event. Do you know who RuPaul is? Yeah. You do? Mm-hmm. He could tell... Yeah. That's what it is? He? Okay. Well, when he was out of drag. Okay. But I don't think that RuPaul cares about his pronouns. I think you could call him whatever, and he'd be like, you could call me she, you could call me he.
I remember seeing RuPaul for the first time when I was a little kid on TV, and like being attracted to he, she, whatever it is, but then realizing like, wait a second, this isn't. Maybe my mom or my sister told me like that's not. Like, it's a transgender person or whatever the term was. Drag queen. Explain to me what it was, and being so confused. Yeah. Like, but like. She's hot, kind of. Like, you know, I was a little kid. Like, anyone that was, like, had makeup on and boobs or whatever was hot to me when I was fucking 11 or whatever. Yeah.
Anyway, but he made eye contact. He could tell that I was a fan. Mm-hmm. And I must have been, like, with my mouth open or something. But he, like, made direct eye contact and, like, gave me, like, an acknowledgement. Yeah. And I was, like putting that same thing into practice of how simple it is. It's so simple to acknowledge that somebody else exists and is real. And it does so much, so why not do it? Dude,
when people do that to me, just a stranger on the sidewalk saying good morning, hello, it means so much to me. Yeah. It really does. I'm not saying it, like, changes my fucking life, but it definitely changes... that moment, it makes the next couple things hours
brighter. And I will say, like, I mean, in the South, it's a general rule, and it's a custom, and it's part of the culture to say hello to people all the time. Whereas, like, here, it's a little bit like, do we do it? Do we not do it? Like, what's the protocol here?
What has been explained to me is, like, and maybe it's you've explained this to me, or one of the two other friends I have here, is that, like, in LA, it's there's kind of, like, this perpetual vibe of, like, what can you do for me sort of thing. And so I guess when a stranger's looking you in the eyes and saying hello, it's like, easy, bro. Like, what are you trying to do?
What do you want from me?
Yeah. You're trying to fuck me? You're trying to get a job? Like, yeah.
What is it that you want? I would say that.
I'm
for sure.
running down the street. Like, I'm not gonna, like, stop say hello. Hey, by the way, here's my business card or whatever.
That feeling is pervasive in everything. Like, I mean, even when I was out for Halloween, like, there was a Pikachu. The guy dressed as Pikachu, and I was dressed as another Pokemon, and I was like, oh, let's take a picture. Like, you know, and he was so standoffish and weird about it. And then I was like, oh, that was really uncomfortable. And I drunkenly should have not asked for that photo. But then I realized later he was a YouTube star. Oh. And, like, that's why he was so cagey, you know? And there's just a caginess to people here where there are people who might be celebrities that you don't even know. Or, like, who do get approached by fans all the time. And, like, you might not even know it. So there's... Whereas, like, that's not even a thing in Georgia. Like, you don't even think about, like, that. Which is nice. Yeah. Which is nice about Georgia.
Yeah. I think my time here, especially now that we'll get to it in a second, but, you know, it looks like you're not going to be here for much longer. I don't think I'm going to be here for much longer either. Especially given the COVID contact.
I mean, I'm struggling with that. Yeah. For sure. It's a struggle for me because, like... This is where I grew up. This is where I found myself.
This is your home.
Yeah, this is my home. And, like, my husband doesn't have those same feelings about LA and like that sort of emotional attachment as I do. And I also think part of it for us too is that like he comes across as straight, which we've talked about before. He doesn't come across as blatantly gay as I do.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the same feeling of like this being a safe haven.
Right.
You know?
Right.
As it was for me. Like I came here and it was like, I got to take off like my jacket. I got to take off my shoes, put my feet up, you know, like, and just like fucking relax, you know, because I've been so tightly wound for the past 18 years. But he doesn't necessarily have that same release with West Hollywood. And he sort of thinks... Anyways, I shouldn't put words into his mouth.
Right.
But
he's less attached.
He's less attached. So the idea of moving up to Arrowhead is a scary one. And I'm only committing to a year.
Okay.
I'm saying a year for now. And it's only an hour and a half away. And we have a friend who lives up there who is down in West Hollywood every weekend. So I'm trying to convince myself that, like, if that's what I want to do, I can do it. And it is possible. And, you know, it's just going to be baby steps. But right now, what's going on with COVID? Do we want to be in the city for that? Do we not? Is LA even really returning? Like I said, I went out to that bar and it's like, is this fun?
Yeah.
Do I enjoy this? You know?
It's a great point,
like,
dude.
It's like...
Yeah. And if you're asking yourself that question, then it's not fun.
I think I ended up having fun because I before the pandemic, I would have described myself as an introvert who comes across as an extrovert.
Okay.
And now I'm like, fuck labels. Sometimes I just want to fucking see people. Sometimes I don't. You know? Like, and I'm certainly much more extroverted than I would have classified myself before the pandemic. But I also realized, because I was working in the service industry and working so many jobs where I was using my extrovertedness to make money, when I got off the clock, all I wanted to do was be home alone.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why I thought I was an introvert, was because I was so tapped out and exhausted. But it turns out, like, I actually can turn that part of myself on and be engaging and talk to people and, like, have conversations with anybody, you know? And that I actually really enjoy that, and I miss that. So I did enjoy myself, but just the aspect of, like, I might enjoy...
People wearing masks in bars?
So it's really weird. Like, you have to show your vaccination card.
Whoa.
And then
this is how little of a social life I have, by the way. That, like, I live in LA and I don't know what culture is.
I'm down the street from it. I can literally just walk down
in
to
West
it.
Hollywood. Right.
Like, for me, it's so much less of an ordeal.
Right.
And, like, you have to be wearing a mask when you walk in, but the second you walk in, you can take it off.
Gotcha.
So it's, like, very strange.
It's all for,
It's all kind of like, for show.
Yeah, COVID theatrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
in and of itself is obnoxious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was fun overall.
Okay. Let's connect the dots between, you leaving LA for a year, which is on the immediate horizon, and then the last place we were at was your senior year of college. When you were graduating college, what did you think you wanted to do professionally to make money? And what did you end up doing? Talk to us about those first couple years out of college.
Oh man. So I think that, like, when I first came to college, going back a couple of steps even, deciding what my major was going to be, what I really wanted to be was a pop star. And, like, that's a very silly thing to say out loud. You know, it feels like you're a fucking idiot. You're delusional. You know?
I don't think that, and by the way, I have those same ambitions.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, I want to be a professional athlete up until, I guess, high school, and actually, like, had that reoccurring dream in college. All of a sudden, I stopped my academic career in Georgia to go play football at this school in Louisiana.
Right.
Now, was it explicitly like, oh, I'm going to become an NFL player? It was more, no, like, I feel like I need to scratch this itch.
Yeah.
But if I'm being totally honest, in the back of my head, I'm like, hey, who knows? Maybe this goes really well.
Right.
Maybe I will. So these things aren't ridiculous. Dude, even still today, I just had a conversation with my therapist this past week, and we're getting to the point now that we're kind of like moving on from my like psychological crises and like these fucking these screaming, crying breakdowns and suicidal ideation. We're moving more onto like more low-key therapy stuff, like what's your next step professionally? And in our last couple of therapy sessions, he hasn't said it explicitly. I kind of wish he would, but he's basically just like, hey man, you need to get your shit together.
Right.
Like in so many words. And so he started asking me this past week when we talked, he's like, what is it you want to do? Like, what is it you're passionate about? What is it you want to do? I don't have an answer for him, and I'm a 33-year-old man.
Yeah.
But basically I told him, like, dude, I want to travel the world. Like if I had a dream, if I could manifest my dreams, I would want to have like a traveling like TV show or this podcast where I go from like country to country interviewing people and filming video, and like have this like YouTube TV show or this podcast where I'm going from country to country talking to people and exploring their lives, and then like sharing that with the world and somehow monetizing that. Yeah. And me saying that out loud, it feels embarrassing right now, just like you're saying you want to be a pop star. It feels embarrassing to say this out loud. And it was embarrassing for me to say it out loud to him when I was talking to him. I told him that. As I'm saying it, I'm like, dude, I apologize. It's like, I'm sorry, but like I'm embarrassed to say this. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. So I get you.
No, and that's with creative things. That's why it's such an achievement when something is successful and takes off, and like you can live off of it, you know? Because you do have to do it for a while where that's not the case. And where you are going to be seen as a failure, you know? Anyway, so, which I'll get to in a second. But when I was deciding what my major was going to be, I was like, okay, well, I love music videos. What's a safe way of doing my dream? Of doing the pop star thing? Where it's like, I'm not so stupid that I think I'm going to be a pop star, but I could at least be working in that realm. And I love music videos. I loved MTV hits and watching music videos. I would watch music videos all day long. I loved them so much. And so that's why I chose the film degree, was to go in and do film. And I was very much like, I feel like I was Elle Woods in film school.
Oh, was it you from Legally Blonde?
Elle Woods from Legally Blonde, yeah.
Nailed that reference!
Yeah. I felt like I was that. Like, I'd show up to the cinematography class, and like, the assignment would be, bring in the most beautiful image you've ever seen. The most beautiful image. And people are bringing shots from The Godfather and, The English Patient, and all these like Oscar-winning films of like these beautifully lit cinematic things. And I, of course, bring in Britney Spears in her toxic diamond rhinestone outfit. and like up against all these other ones, but I'm just like, this is the most beautiful image, and I cannot be wrong. Like, you are all wrong. Like, this is the most beautiful image. And so, and the assignment was we had to like try to create the same lighting situation that happens in that photo. Anyways, but that was me in film school, was basically being this like, who are you? Like, but I loved film school, love film school, and fell in love with editing, actually. Like, editing my own stuff and doing whatever. And then I graduated, and I was working in post-production. I thought I wanted to be an editor, because that was a safe way of going about my dream without actually doing the stupid version of the dream in my head. And so I was in post-production, working on, like, films with some big stars and whatnot, and, doing screenings. And we did a screening for Harvey Weinstein, actually, for one of the movies. He slept through the entire screening, and then afterwards gave all his opinions about the film. It was ridiculous. But, let's see. But I saw what the editors were doing on the films, and I was like, your job looks like hell.
Right.
Watching the same footage and clips over and over and over for months, if not years, trying to address certain notes or create certain emotions that weren't there. And I was like, no, I do not want that job of being the person who has to deal with the technology, that the hard drives that crash, the Wi-Fi that doesn't work.
That job? Is it all people?
Do. People, I mean,
okay.
they
it's not just like people aspiring actors and like, oh, fuck it, this will pay the bills?
No.
Okay.
No, it's like people who are genuinely passionate about editing and pacing, and I mean, the editing on a film, it's crucial. It's critical.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? They might want to be directors.
Mm-hmm.
I could see an editor wanting to be a director, or they might have another dream behind the scenes post-production. Anyways, I was mostly just getting people lunches, you know, at that point, and like, you know, buying celebrities a sweatshirt if they were cold, or like, you know, whatever. And then I was, let's see, I wasn't doing anything creative. And I was going from this super coddled environment where I was having intellectual debates every day about pop culture and about history, and I was learning all these things and writing all these in-depth papers, to then like just getting people lunches.
The real Lord hits you
know,
hard, dude.
And it hits you, but it's like, you know that you have to pay your dues. Like there's no one who goes to film school thinking you won't, or actually that's not true. Some people think they're gonna make it big and be like Spielberg and just like hit the lottery right away, which is how they want you to feel, you know, graduating from USC.
USC is probably like a pretty recognized film school, I'd imagine, right?
It's the best in the nation.
In the country?
Yeah.
Wow.
At least it was when I went.
Okay.
But I don't
what
know
else
where
is
it
up there?
stands now.
Like NYU?
I think Chapman and NYU, for sure. Chapman University and NYU, I think, are the other ones that are the big ones that are up there.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are the big ones.
Does UCLA have a film school?
They do. I was gonna say, but I don't think
it's not recognized the same.
It's not recognized in the same way. I think it's really good, and they have access to a lot of industry people, which is really great. But and it may be different now. I don't know.
It's like getting into that film school at high school is like you had to have good grades.
Well, I got into USC undeclared.
Oh, okay.
And then once I was there,
gotcha.
I applied to the film school once, got waitlisted.
Oh, okay.
And but they said, listen, you should apply again. You're like at the top of the list. Like, just reuse the same application. But you need to maintain
like a fucking solid GPA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I mean, grades were never an issue for me. So, I got in the second semester. So yeah, I got in on the second try.
Okay.
Which
I don't think there was an equivalent of that at UGA where you had to apply to get in. Maybe the School of Business. Well, like I was international affairs. It wasn't like you just say I want to study international affairs.
Right.
Like, okay. Start taking the classes.
Well, it depends. It depends on the school. Like for the
but you're saying it's the most recognized one in the nation.
Yeah,
so they have to be selected.
And also for the communications school, like I think there's still like a paper application you have to fill out.
Oh, okay.
But like I don't think it's like as rigorous as the film school because like they've got the space. There's not with the film school. There's so much technology and money that gets spent on each student.
That's a good point.
Whereas like for communication, you just have to sit in a chair and buy your own books.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's very, very different. Yeah. There's insurance. There's all kind of insurance for us to be able to use the equipment.
Right.
It's a lot. Anyway, so I was doing the editing thing and was just so dead creatively. Like there was no fire for me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start taking groundlings classes and doing improv and sketch writing just for fun. Just to be doing something creative, not even seriously, you know?
Get some sort of spark back in your soul.
Get some spark back in my soul. And so I fell into it kind of accidentally where like I took the first couple of classes, was natural at it, was good at it, and I learned about the track that they have at Groundlings where you essentially rise up through these different course levels to inevitably and hopefully make it onto the main stage, and then from there go on to like SNL or, you know, somewhere else. But it's great training regardless of what you do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of fell into that. And in order to continue taking groundlings classes, I needed to have a more steady job.
It's expensive?
It's expensive, but it's also like the classes are like 4 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's at the time I think it was like $600, $700 for a 13-week class.
Okay, not crazy.
Not crazy, but like still a lot of money for somebody living in LA. And
right.
Like,
where were you living at the time?
When I first graduated, I lived just south of the 10 on a place called Gear Avenue.
Okay.
And it was...
What, like, neighborhood is that?
It's not... I don't know what neighborhood I would call it.
Okay.
It's in between Culver City and USC.
Okay.
But I never knew what to call it because it was just in such a no man's land place or area. Like, it's one of those places in LA where it's like sort of just gray.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what it is.
Are you living with
necessarily.
a roommate?
I had a roommate.
Okay.
And it was $600 a month.
Damn.
Super cheap.
Crazy.
Super cheap, but it was
the ghetto.
It was in a rough area.
Right.
Stray cats all over my street.
Right.
Like, my mom was terrified. Hated that I lived there. And she only saw it once I was already planning to move out. And she was like, oh my gosh, thank God I didn't know that you lived here. You know, she was just so freaked out.
Man, college, sorry to get back to college. College is such an awesome experience, but it's like almost too awesome.
Yes. But that's how I feel. How I feel when I go back now to USC. I want to like scream in kids' faces and be like, it's not this good.
Right.
It is not ever going to be this good. It's not ever going to be this good out there.
Joe, I mean, UJ is the same thing. It's a totally different experience, but the same, you know, it's a different amazing experience, but an amazing experience. It's like there needs to be a little bit more, doesn't need to be, but it'd be almost like there's a little like of a like a detox process.
Yeah. Hey, can you guys make this worse?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like your senior year, you should have to like get like work at like fucking, I don't know, some like hourly wage job and take class at the same time to kind of like water down the experience.
Free internships, and I mean they've been doing that shit for years. That is so criminal.
It should be like part of our requirements. Like part of graduation requirement should be an internship or, you know, something where you're working in an office or something that's like.
And I did, and you do, but you still don't quite get it.
Yeah.
You know, like. Yeah. Because you're having that experience, you're having your classes, and you're having all the same fun. Mm-hmm. You know? I think the biggest thing about college that is so amazing is just the community. Yeah. You know? And just the feeling of, like...
We're all doing the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. We're all the same age, doing the same shit on a daily basis. Right. It's essentially the same priorities. Right. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. But that's not an accurate reflection of reality.
It's not an accurate... No.
It's not.
At all. At all. At all. And I think suburbs can sometimes feel like that because your kids... You've got the school thing coming in again. Yeah. And your kids are all going through the same graduation, summer break... Mm-hmm. You know, you're all going through that all together, you know? So I think that can be fun. I'm speaking as someone who doesn't know firsthand about... except for the fact of growing up in it.
But not being a parent
but not, like, being an adult in that situation. I have no idea what it's like.
Did the groundlings thing give you a sense of structure that we were talking about?
Yes.
Like you enjoyed with the syllabus and being in college? Okay.
Totally. Yeah. But then at the same time, it was like... No promises. Right. You know, like you weren't necessarily going to get a degree at the end. Right. You're not necessarily going to get a job at the end. Right. You have no idea how far you're going to go in it. You have no idea when your last day is.
Oh, they kick you out?
Well, like you have 3 chances to pass basic. You have 3 chances to pass intermediate. You have 2 chances to pass advanced. Okay. Then from there you get 1 chance to pass writing lab, 1 chance to pass advanced writing lab, At that point, you then get invited to their Sunday company. This is how it is, or how it was when I was in it.
Is this thing dead now?
I have no idea what's going on with it, to be honest.
Because all has to be in person.
I have no idea.
And shit, right?
I have no idea.
Okay.
If maybe they're doing virtual shows or whatnot. But, I mean, this has been a really hard time period for performers.
Yeah, for sure.
For obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, depressing as fuck.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
But, what was the question?
Oh, I was asking about the structure of ground.
Yeah. So, is
there a palpable feeling of competition and tension amongst your classmates because you're all kind of competing for the same thing? Whereas in college, there's not like a limited number of degrees.
Yes, okay. Exactly. There's that too, and that also gets shaped by the teacher that you have. It can change completely based on what teacher you have. Mm-hmm. They really shape the vibe of the class and like how everybody views it. Is it going to be cutthroat? Is it going to be, you know? I mean, and I had one teacher. But
at the same time, you need your classmates, right?
Yes,
because you're improvising,
yes. Right? And there is the sense. There is the sense of like. I mean, some of the. I think it was my most recent teacher who said this, where she was like, "Look around. These are the people you want to network with. These are the people you want to be friends with. Do not ask me to reach out to Will Ferrell for you. Will Ferrell does not want to work with you.
Right.
He has his own friends, his own people, his own like crew that he works with, that he collaborates with. Mm-hmm. These are the people that you are going to collaborate with and work with. So work with that. Don't be trying to reach up, reach around.
Right, yeah.
You know? And so much more, and I think that's a great mentality no matter where you are. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it depends a lot with the teacher. I had another teacher who would tell me things like, I think I've told you this before, who would be like, it's very cutthroat, where they'd be like, you're just not funny.
Oh shit, no, you didn't tell me that. Whoa.
Really?
No.
I don't really know why you're here.
Whoa.
Like, is this is something you genuinely want to do?
Wow.
Like, cutthroat.
Right.
In front of an entire class.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Really?
On stage, critiquing...
Fuck, no wonder people say fucking good morning to you. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
In front of the class?
In front of the class, yeah. In front of the class. And being like, yeah, you're just not good. I don't know. I don't think
if I've ever had an athletic coach that would have ever done something like that. Even like the most hardcore Southern football coach, I don't know if he would have said that in front of the team. Yeah. I'm sure at some point, yes.
It's an old school way of
weeding
groundlings teaching. And it was a way of, I think, weeding people out and making sure that only the people who are really committed to it survive.
Right.
And certainly not all of the teachers are... Some of the best teachers I've ever had are at that school.
How do you respond to that in the moment? Like,
it is gut-wrenching.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. I would be combative, probably.
It's demoralizing, and the vibe of that class was truly demoralizing. And like, I started drinking before class to
might not be a bad idea.
To work myself up for like, okay, how am I gonna get through this? You know,
I guarantee you weren't the only one.
Yeah, and no. And I mean, my class was totally demoralized. Right. You know, and when the show went up. And the people in the class are some of the funniest people I've ever worked with. Yeah. And they were on like touring shows, and like they were, I mean, like real comedians. I felt like I sort of skyrocketed through the first part of the program, and this class totally put me like in my place and like shell shocked me, and I went back and retook levels because I was so shocked by it. But for the show, when the show came up, everybody choked. But I did really well in the show. Mm-hmm. And because at that point I'd said, fuck it. Like,
I'm drunk as fuck.
I don't care. I wasn't drunk for the show. But that would be funny if I was.
So you're working a 9-to-5 job, and then you're doing this at night.
Yeah.
Wow, so it's like getting your master's.
Or on the weekends, or like, you know, whenever. Yeah. So I did great at the show, and she called me, and she was like, "Well, that's what I wanted you to do this entire time. I guess you're just a lights up kind of guy." Mm-hmm. And she said, "Well, you did so terribly in the class that I can't pass you. But you did great at the show, and you had a good show."
What does that mean to do terribly in the class? Like you're not getting laughs?
Like, in the class, throughout the class, like, I just was... I mean, because when somebody tells you you're just not funny...
But it's then hard But there's not like a right or wrong answer, right? So it's like what the teacher feels is funny or like a good performance?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it all comedy-based?
It should be.
Is that what it is? I mean,
it's a comedy school, yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's improv and sketch comedy.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just wasn't funny during the class, and yeah, so she couldn't pass me.
Okay.
So I guess I should just wrap up the Groundlings thing, because it's kind of like a...
So at that point you left Groundlings?
No. No. I went back and took the previous levels, and you know, I think shortly after that... Oh my gosh, there's so much I'm forgetting about my life. But when I first graduated college, I went on a backpacking trip through Europe.
Oh yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And because there weren't any polished gay websites or publications, it was all sort of like Craigslist at that time. Mm-hmm. There was no reputable source to really go to be like, hey, where do I go in Spain? Mm-hmm. What gay bars are in London? Mm-hmm. What gay bars are in France? You know? And so I started doing that. I called it Gay Boys Guide to Europe. Mm-hmm. And started writing about things and blogging about things with one of my friends from the house. Mm-hmm. My senior year. And when
one of the girls?
One of the girls.
Okay.
So one of the girls went with me, and she was applying to med school while I was writing about like where to go to get your dick sucked, you know? She was writing essays about like what's your most humbling experience. And I'd be like, on Thursday nights there's a drink special. So it was like a total juxtaposition of our two, like what we were, and we would laugh about that.
How long was that trip?
3 months.
Wow. And so how consistently are you blogging?
I tried to blog every... no, I shouldn't say every day. I tried to have a post for every city. Okay. Like, one post for every city that we visited or that we were in.
Yeah. That's cool, dude.
It was amazing. It was life-changing. Just incredible. Mm-hmm. And, like... I mean, shout out to my dad for... all of this, because once I graduated college and this trip ended, and he sort of cut me off, and I had to figure things out on my own. In LA, you wonder where people's money comes from, and so I try to always just be honest about like where money comes from, you know. So at that point, I was still. Tony was, like, funding the whole operation, you know? And because he's British, it's very important to him that Marcus and I, my brother, have an international, global experience. He wanted that for us. He didn't want us to just be Americans who only knew about Alabama and Tennessee, you know? He wanted us to have that global perspective. So he has always really reinforced that. So yeah, we traveled around. Then and people enjoyed it. People enjoyed the blog. I mean, like...
It was getting, like, pretty good traction, wasn't it?
Gay Boys Guide to Europe, not so much. But then when I got back, and I was working as a post-production PA, and then taking the Groundlings classes, and then as I transitioned into the... Well, actually, so... Post-production and the Groundlings, that was happening, and I came back and I was writing Gay Boy Guide. Okay. I started a site called The Gay Boy. I realized I miss writing every day and having an audience and writing to people, and so I was writing about dates I was going on and the different expectations when it's two dudes going on a date as opposed to like a guy and a girl, because there's a lot that we learn about dating through rom-coms and like all that sort of shit, and like with two guys that just wasn't out there at the time. Now you see it all the time.
Yeah.
Now you see rom-coms and like gay storylines on film and TV all the time. But before, you had no idea what the dynamics were. You had no idea what, like, how do you figure out like who's the top, who's the bottom, who like does whatever, you know? And so I was writing about that and writing my discoveries and writing about like how I realized I still have shame around being gay, or like, you know, whatever it was, and whatever was hitting me that week or whatever, you know, very Sex and the City type of blog. And people were enjoying it. It was getting traction. And that's the point when somebody in DC had started reading my blog because he had seen... Oh my gosh, because he had seen my Grindr profile when I went up with you,
really?
With Morgan and Julianne when we did New Year's in DC that one year. I think you were sick.
I got sick as shit.
Yeah, you were super sick.
Yeah.
Anyways, but this guy messaged me on Grindr, and on my Grindr profile I had my blog page because I wanted as many people to read it as possible.
Good advertisement.
You know? Yeah. And I never met up with this guy.
Wow, I didn't realize that was when you first got in contact with him. You're flash forwarding to...
No. That's not when I first met. Yeah.
Okay.
I met this guy, or this guy messaged me on... And so he started reading my blog. This guy in DC started reading my blog. He then invited me on this trip to the British Virgin Islands.
Okay.
To go on this like gay cruise for a week. And at least in my head, I thought it was a gay cruise. I didn't read any of the details or anything. Turns out it's like it was yacht week, where it's not a cruise ship, it's 10 different yachts.
Okay.
And
was it gay?
It was gay.
Okay.
It was very gay. But I was going alone. I went alone with 100 other gay men.
Okay.
And I went completely, entirely alone. And that's, of course, where I met my husband. And he was one of the first people that I saw. And he happened to be assigned to my boat.
Okay.
And we fell in love, like, immediately. And
you knew, like, as soon as you met this dude and started hanging out with him, like, the first couple of days, like, this is something different.
Yes.
Wow.
I was like, this... And I had dated so many people at that... Or what I thought was so many people. I mean, I was single for between 21 and 24. Okay. So I was single for 3 years.
Gotcha.
Where I felt like I had my senior year where I was... explored with a bunch of different guys. I don't want to say I had sex with a bunch of different guys because it wasn't sex. It was like I still was being like kind of prudish in that way. Like I still was afraid of STDs and like all of that, and so I didn't like do all of it. But I hooked up with a bunch of guys. Right. And then in Europe, I also had hooked up with a bunch of guys all over Europe. And then I came back to LA and had dated a bunch. So I really was like, oh my gosh. And I was coming from cookie cutter, wholesome Georgia, where I was like, I want to find a husband.
Okay. Damn. I was going to ask you about this.
Yeah.
At what point did you start to think that?
Well, I mean, I had worked myself out of the mentality of I need to be married before I can have sex.
Obviously,
you know?
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. But I still wanted to get married.
Okay.
And I still want to do the married with children thing, you know? And so the married thing never really went away.
Gotcha. But as you're like hooking up with guys in LA and in Europe, you're not like thinking, are you looking for your life partner? Or was
okay. Great question.
Yeah.
Not in Europe.
Okay.
Certainly not in here. Well, actually, but the thing is if I had met an Italian man that, like, swept me off my feet and, like...
Anything's possible.
Anything is possible. Certainly in my worldview, where I have had, like, a horseshoe on my ass, and so many wonderful things have happened to me that are just unbelievable.
Right.
You know, where you're just like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, yeah, just crazy things. I mean, I was... Also because, like, I was going to... I became friends with Lily Collins in college, who is now a celebrity.
Mm-hmm. I've heard this name, but I guess
now,
for you,
she's now a famous person.
Okay.
But, like...
Is there a difference between a celebrity and a famous person?
No, I guess I just have, like, a negative association with the word celebrity.
Okay.
I think is why.
Okay.
But
she's an actress?
She's an actress, and I got to go to a bunch of her movie premieres and go to, like, a bunch of, like, super amazing events with her and, like, just, like, a side of LA that very few people get to see. I mean, I know that's the industry here and that, like, technically a large part of the city get to see it.
Right.
But I was getting to see it without working a mailroom, without having to work my way up. I simply got to go because I had befriended with this person, you know? And I was living that sort of life with her and, you know, when I first graduated, but then at the same time struggling, you know, like paying, like living south of the 10, you know, like getting people's lunches, like not glamorous at all. And it was such a weird...
Yeah, I'd love to ask. Is that a weird fucking juxtaposition?
Yes.
You're like rubbing elbows with celebrities, but at the same time you go back to your house and south of the 10 with stray cats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very disorienting.
Yeah.
And like...
Good word.
It always felt like... It still feels that way, too, where it feels like success is so close, but so far away. And I certainly felt that way when I was working the Oscars, too. When I would work the Oscars, the event, because it's like, you're like so close.
Literally.
You're literally, physically, you are the closest you can be.
Yeah.
While simultaneously being the farthest away.
Right. Yeah.
From it.
Yeah.
You know? And that's how it feels when you're there, is it's like there's so much excitement and joy and like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And I mean, like, now the stories I have from like events like that, not that they're like mind-blowing stories or anything, like I didn't see anybody doing like lines of coke anywhere, but like it's just so cool to have lived in LA and now to have those experiences. But then you have like there's a thing called the Disney hangover, where like after watching a Disney movie you get a hangover because your life isn't that perfect.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so after working the Oscars, there's like a hangover of like, fuck, I'm still a fucking nobody. You know? Like there's that sort of like that aftershock of it. Anyway, so I went all over the place just there.
Yeah,
but
I'll get you back on track.
Okay.
So you were a gay boy guide. That's in Europe. Then you brought it back to LA. It was getting some traction. You met your husband on the boat. Let's pick up there.
Yeah.
Tower on the boat. But he lives in D.C.
He lived in D.C. at the time. He lived in D.C. at the time. And I was like... I mean, I'm pretty neurotic, I would say. And I was like, but what's going to happen? Like, this trip is going to end, and then you're going to live there, and I'm going to live over here. And, like, I was trying to work it all out. And Tyler, who is very neurotic as well, was surprisingly very chill on the trip. He was like, don't worry, we'll figure it out.
So by the time this 10-day trip is ending, you guys are, like, planning a relationship.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, like, we were saying, I love you. Like...
Whoa!
Very quickly.
Actually, that's not that crazy. I've done the same thing.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah, I've done the same thing.
It felt crazy, though, because I didn't... there were guys that I could have...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's an interesting way to do it, and I guess it's just different. We have different mentalities. Because if I were on a boat, that's essentially like a fucking cruise, right?
That was most people's... They were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's day one.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? But I am so...
It's day one, bro.
It's day one. No, somebody literally was like, because we
like,
asked...
dudes you're probably... some of those guys are probably fucking multiple dudes in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
which is absolutely what I would have been doing. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, and the person who... So, Tyler and I were assigned to the same boat, but not the same room.
Right.
And so... And by the way, I'm meeting all these people for the first time. And
right.
so, we hit it off at this buffet, the welcome buffet.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked our boatmate to switch rooms so that Tyler and I could be in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, it's the first day.
Chill out, y'all.
It's the first day, and you're already doing this? Like, if this doesn't work out...
I'm gonna be pissed.
I'm not switching back. No, he was just straight up like, I'm not switching back. Like, you're stuck in the same room for the rest of the trip.
Wow.
Like,
it's the first day.
It's the first day. If there's drama... Because he was anticipating, like, drama, fallout, whatever.
Right.
He doesn't know me.
Right.
He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know Tyler. You know, I mean... It could have been bad.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
wait. So did y'all ask to get in the same room on just from the breakfast or buffet or whatever?
Yeah.
Just from conversation.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But you knew.
We knew.
Yeah.
We knew for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And like at the buffet, like people, because I was presumably going to blog about this trip, and people at the buffet were coming up to me and being like, are you the writer of the blog? Like, do you write the blog? Are you a blogger? And I was like, no.
Oh, shit.
You know, yeah, I do. It's, you know, just like for fun or whatever. And Tyler was like, what's this blog everybody keeps asking you about? I said, oh, it's nothing. And this guy in front of us in line goes, it's really good. You should read it sometime. And so I couldn't really deny it. So I had to like come clean about it. Turns out there was some people genuinely did read the blog, but there was also a bingo game going on of like find the blogger and get a signature. Like every square, you have to get somebody to sign it who it applies to. So someone who's won an Oscar, somebody who produces a TV show, somebody who's gone skydiving.
The dude who writes the blog.
Yeah, the dude who writes the blog. So you had to get signatures of There were 100 people, so it was like there were a lot of squares. But anyways, that's part of why people kept coming up. But anyways, Tyler and I switched rooms. We spent the week together, just falling more and more in love. And then he moved back to DC, and I moved back to LA, and we did long distance for 3 or 4 months. And then he his job was ending anyway. He was in government contracts. He's an engineer, and so his job was sort of ending, so he took some interviews out in LA, and he got a job. And so once he got a job, he moved out to LA. And yeah,
Did y'all move in together immediately?
No.
Okay.
So we wanted him to have some space and like for him to get situated by himself first, and like to make his own friends and find his own, you know, his own way in life before us just locking it down. So we lived separately for a year of dating. It was like at a year or just shy of a year where we moved in permanently together. And then that's also around the time where because I tried to turn Gay Boy Guide into a business. And I just have no business experience whatsoever.
What does that mean? Like, what does that look like? Turn to get advertisers?
Turn it into an LLC. Pay like the naming rights and, you know, all these tax laws. I'm very not good at business.
Did you have like a business model? Like, how are you going to monetize it?
Well, my dad had put me into contact with somebody that tried to help me with all of that, and it turned from all my energy started going away from writing and into like web development and how is the site gonna look, and how am I gonna get advertisers, and we came up with this idea of, and it was like as social media was rising, right? Like social media had just started to rise, and there was this idea of becoming a user on my website. You could create a user account, and you could be a gay boy guide who publishes your own articles about what it's like to be gay and your journey in being gay and like dating gay. Because once I started dating Tyler,
Oh, that's right.
couldn't write.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that.
I couldn't write about my relationship anymore. Like, I wanted to keep it private, you know, and, like, just deal with things internally and not...
But that was kind of the heartbeat. That was kind of the theme of the website, right? Was, like...
Right.
Dating.
Right. And the fact that I was being so vulnerable.
Right.
Like, I was being so just, like... straight up and honest about, like, these dates that I was going on. And people really felt like they were on an adventure with me. You know? Yeah.
So once you tried to monetize, the soul kind of fell out of it.
The soul kind of fell out of it. I had to start... And that's really where my dad and I started to have some real differences. And that's when he was like, okay, I'm not financially supporting you anymore. You need to figure out... like... Which, fair, you know? You need to figure out what you're doing, because I'm not just gonna fund
this,
you know, ideas or whatever. And so I got a job at a clinic doing HIV outreach and getting people to sign up for research studies to develop treatments and cures for HIV and other infectious diseases. So... that was the job I got. I was taking Groundlings classes, and then Tyler and I were living by Pink's Hot Dogs at the time. Yeah. And then hopefully now I'm back on track. But
you're back on track.
Then we wanted to get a dog, and so our building didn't allow dogs, so we looked into this new building that we're in now, and that we've been in ever since. And so that's been 2016 onwards that we've done that. And as I was at UCLA, I started taking more...
UCLA was the HIV job.
HIV job. It was like The Office, you know? Like,
dude, those videos used to pick up when you're at that job.
Yes.
Were fucking hysterical.
Really?
With your colleague, the Asian
Melinda.
lady. Oh my god.
She never...
Those things were hysterical.
She never realized the comedic gold that she was.
Right.
And I constantly wanted to turn that office into a show, because we were all so different.
Right.
And we were all within, like, 6 feet of each other.
Right.
I mean, talk about looking back at, like, pre-COVID, where we're cramped into this tiny fluorescently lit room with, like, 6 desks jam-packed into there, and we're just goofing around all day. Like, there is not a ton of work happening.
Right.
For sure.
Was it like a non-profit situation?
It was a grant situation.
Okay.
So we were under UCLA and getting money through UCLA and, like, doing that sort of thing.
Not a ton of pressure to, like, make money.
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
And I mean, I was doing my job, like, what was asked of me.
But there wasn't a ton of work.
But there wasn't a ton of work.
Yeah.
And, so we just had... but I also had enough energy at the end of the day to do something else. So I started hosting at a restaurant on Wednesday nights. And I started doing tours at the Dolby Theater.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that's how I've worked the Oscars and, like, that sort of thing, was because that's where the Oscars are. Yeah. And so I started working 7 days a week.
Oh, shit.
I started working 7 days a week, but I was making...
Dude, you're a hustler. I don't know if I guess my first 3 years out of college teaching in Phoenix, I worked that hard, but fuck, you work hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing when you're in that sort of grind is, like, you always think you could be working harder.
Right.
You know? And, like, at this time, I still had the dream of, like, making music and being a pop star. You know? But I was getting older and older and older. You know? And, like, pop stars are not... Like, at least when we were growing up, the model was... You had to be famous by the time you were 18, or you're ancient and you're aging out, you know? And so I kept getting farther and farther away from 18, and I was like, shit, well, if I'm going to do it, sort of like you going to Louisiana to play football, like, I need to scratch that itch. Otherwise, I'm just going to regret for the rest of my life that I didn't do this. So I started investing my money in my music and music videos, and but it took a long time, and it was actually once I left that job that I started making the music videos. I was making the music while I was still at that UCLA job, and then once I graduated, once I left that job, because the grant had ended and it wasn't getting renewed, that's when I had all this money in savings that I had saved up for the past 3 years that I'd been at that job, and I'd been working, 3 different jobs. I also started being a game night host, where I'd go to people's houses and I'd host game nights.
What? Really?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
A friend of ours started this company where they
host
game nights at like rich and famous people's houses.
Okay.
And so I had also started doing that. Anyway, so I was just hustling and trying to make a bunch of money, because music is so expensive to produce, and music videos are even more expensive to make and produce. But I felt like finally I was doing my dream, like the thing that I had always said I was going to do. And I mean, something I remember about my early 20s, mid-20s, is I did not want to be seen as a failure. I'd been a success my entire life. I had won all these awards. I was prom king, homecoming king, swim team captain. Then at USC, I was on the dance team. I was, in student government. I got into the film school. Like, the accomplishments were just, and that's the other thing with school and being part of a program, is you're just fed constant achievements and goalposts and positive feedback. There's so much positive feedback. And once you're in the real world, there's none of that. Especially when you're grinding like I was, where you're literally just getting shit on all day by like customers and stuff.
Started investing all your time in music. Did you feel like a shift in your like energy? Like, I'm doing what?
It was such an alive time, and I had felt dead for so long working in this 9 to 5.
Yeah. That has to be your positive feedback, even if it's not like, you're fucking on MTV. The positive feedback has to become like, I'm doing what I'm passionate about.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing with Gay Boy Guide 2 is I felt like it had to be successful right now. It has to make money right now. And like, it needs to make money because I don't want to get a 9 to 5 and be a loser. No offense to anybody with a 9 to 5, but like, that was just like, I did not want to be stuck in a 9 to 5 job, but then at the same time, people, sort of similar to the gay conversation, people were like, how does Alex make money? Like, what does Alex do?
Right.
What is he doing in LA? Like, okay, he went to film school, and now, like, what is he trying to... And there's such a feeling of, I need to be successful right now.
Right.
And that's just not how it happens, and everybody will tell you that's typically not how it happens. And so with the pop music thing, I didn't want to pursue it because I didn't want to be seen as... I thought I would be seen as an even bigger loser, like...
Delusional?
Yeah, delusional, and like, you post a YouTube video and it gets 10 views.
Right.
And just, what does that do to your soul and your spirit to be like, oh my gosh, I just invested so much money, so much time, so much energy into this, and it didn't go anywhere, But by the time I started making stuff, the music videos, I'd already had the experience with Gay Boy Guide. I saw what going after money does to something that you love, So I wasn't going to be attached to that. At this point, I'd had enough time being on social media to disassociate myself from the like count or the view count or the whatever. Because, like, I throughout all of this, I'd been posting videos and YouTube videos and whatnot, and, like, I would get truly embarrassed when I would post something and it would not get a ton of views or a ton of likes. Like, I thought that I had to be Tyler Oakley level. He's a famous YouTuber. Like, every time, you know, and that, like, and I just didn't have the strength to keep making videos, even though I wasn't getting likes.
Right.
You know, like, if something wasn't getting likes or views, then I would be like, okay, this isn't working.
Right.
Kill it. You know, I wouldn't keep going with it. Anyways, but by the time the music videos came around, it was like, I'm doing this for me. I'm scratching this itch. I'm like, if this goes, it takes off, it does whatever, then, like, let's go. I was good at and Tyler says this too, I was good at getting the music together, getting the music video together, and the productions of the music videos I'm really proud of, and I think they look really good. But I'm not good at, like, the marketing, okay, now how to make money off of this mentality.
It's pretty typical, like, artist problem, right?
Yeah. And I was having a hard time pitching myself to, like, even, I mean, how do you do that? Like, pitch yourself to agents, pitch yourself to managers. I was trying to do that if I heard somebody was a manager or an agent, like, but it's also such a ballsy thing to be like, hey, check me out. Like, I'm talented. You know, like, you want to make money off of me?
Yeah.
But you have to be that.
Yeah.
And that's what's so tough about this industry this industry is just like, you have to be freaking ballsy and, like, confident at the same time as being, like, totally riddled with self-doubt, you know? And that's what the real battle is because you're riddled. Those super confident people who do that are totally riddled with self-doubt, for sure. But you have to be able to blow past that, even though you have those feelings. Yeah. Anyway, so I made those music videos. I'm continuing on at the Groundlings, and I start working at a dance studio, following the there was, like, this sweet spot of, like, I was producing a ton of content because I just was like, fuck it, I'm 28, like, my 20s are about to end. I'm just gonna put out there was a month in June when I was 28 where I'm kind of going all over the place, but there was a month in June where I was like, I'm gonna post a video a day. Okay. And I'm gonna post a different show every day. Monday is going to be a sketch show called Mermaids and Mimosas about two drunk mermaids trying to convince humans that climate change isn't real so that the world will one day be flooded with water.
It's a good idea.
It's a genius idea, and it's not dead. I have to find a way to revive it.
Don't let it die.
Tuesday was Talk Show Tuesday, and I would do that's when I started a podcast with one of my coworkers called Smart Enough.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
Where we would talk about...
There's a video element to that, too. I remember that.
Yeah. So there was a video element to that, and we would talk about... Because it was post-Trump, and I was like, there's got to be something that I can do.
Right.
To...
capitalize on this.
Not even capitalize on it, but just help. For me, it was like to help or like just be like... Because when I was on Facebook, I was a good Facebook debater. I could go toe-to-toe with people, and, like, there are sometimes I would get too emotional, but for the most part, I was effective in my communication skills and, like, able to go toe-to-toe with people and debate with people. So I thought I could bring that to Smart Enough and sort of being from a conservative area and now living in a liberal area, I felt like I had a certain perspective on, like, because I'd been around, oh my gosh, I'm going all over the place now, but when I first came to LA, I felt super conservative. I thought I was conservative compared to everyone, and, like, you know, when I first graduated, I also attended a group called Tribe, which was for gay men to come and talk about issues in the gay community and just talk about different things that are going on, like stigma, talking about like stigma around, or like the difficulty of going home for the holidays and being around family, or like the different terms in the community, or race issues, like racism in the community, and how it exists and how it manifests, and people sharing their personal stories about like experiencing racism in the gay community, you know? And I was the youngest in the group by like 20 years. So I was mostly with, and it's exactly the type of environment that I love. I love people being vulnerable, sharing emotional stories, and also the intellectual dialogue of like, this is my worldview, this is your worldview. They're totally different. This is why I have my worldview, and this is why this person has their worldview. You know? And so it's totally what I love. And there was one time where, like, I mean, the stories I heard about, like, the people who lived through the AIDS epidemic, like, firsthand, and how they would lost their entire friend group.
Jesus.
Like now that we've lived in a pandemic and we sort of, but, like, living in a time...
AIDS at that time was much more hardcore than COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, I mean, just imagine if you were to look at your group of friends and just imagine all of them being wiped out and then being told, like, to start over. Like, you have to keep living, basically. You know? Like, that's what
war.
Yeah, that's what people were dealing with, and they continue to deal with, who are part of that generation. And sometimes they would say things like, I just want to go to all these Chick-fil-A's and blow them up. I want to blow them up. And I'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Easy.
That is so...
a gay terrorist.
Yeah. I understood where their anger came from, but it was like, you know, I grew up next to, like, the president of the local Chick-fil-A chain. You know what I mean? And it was such a...
I love chicken sandwiches.
Yeah. It was such a...
No, I get it, man. They're coming. It is. It's like terrorism. That's how terrorists are born. They see all their family and friends being murdered by fucking drones or whatever it is.
Right.
And so that's how they react. Yeah, I get it.
Anyways, I did speak out about that and just whatever. But it's where I first learned about, like, open relationships and, like, you know, it also fed a lot of the ideas of Gay Boy Guide and, like, things that I would write about, like...
I want to get you back to where you were saying there's a month when you're in 2019 where you're doing a video, some piece of content every week. Monday was the Mermaids and Mimosa.
Tuesday, Talk Show enough. Tuesday, Smart Enough. Wednesday was Webcam Wednesday, where I would do... I was trying out being a YouTuber. Okay. And being, like, talking directly to camera. And being like, hey, guys, so, like, today I'm going to talk about... what my 6 Pokemon would be. Right. And, like, and the reasons why. Oh, man, this is a tough one. Let's see, I really like Dragonair, because the design is so blah, blah, blah. And I realized, like, this is not me. This is not, like, I'm not...
I can tell right now you're, like, putting on like a YouTube guy character.
Yeah. Where it's, like, you have to be... There are people who do it well because they come across authentic when they do it. When I do it, I feel like I'm putting on, like, a costume and being, like... somebody that I'm not.
When during this time, how do you have the time to do all this? You must have been in your working jobs too. You were working like Was this also? Were you still doing the HIV job or just
this was during the HIV. So this is pre-music. I will say this is pre-music. Okay. So at least I wasn't doing the music videos.
Damn, dude, but you got an engine.
Yeah. Like, 20s. I mean, 20s. Yeah. For sure.
You're with Tyler at the time?
I'm with Tyler at the time.
It's so funny because, like you said, he's an engineer. He's not, like, in the LA industry at all. No. And so I just have this image of him and, like, just on the sidelines, like, who the fuck have I, like, tied myself to? This guy's fucking nuts. Not to say that, like, what you're doing is... I respect the fuck out of this. I didn't realize how... like, hard you worked and how much output you put out there. I mean, it's incredible. I truly admire it. But he's not in that scene at all.
No. And to him, he's like, some of these videos are embarrassing. like they are straight up like not good videos, and like they're not getting likes, they're not getting comments. Like that's the real grind.
Right.
That is the real grind. It's easy to show up to a job and clock in.
Right. Then this is the point I want to, and I'm going to have to bring us to, it's not
the end.
Not the end, but like sometime here in the next 15, 30 minutes. It's not going to upload.
Oh Jesus, I'm sorry.
No, it's great. This is
can
perfect.
talk forever.
No, it's perfect. I'm like,
I can talk forever.
What is happening right now between us is
what you've been missing. Or sorry.
Not only what I've been missing socially, but like this is like what I want to do. This is my fucking gay boy guide in Mermaids and Mimosas.
Totally.
This is exactly what I want to do. I'm on like a high right now almost.
Yeah.
So don't apologize to that. And you're perfect at this. Like you're such a natural at doing something like just talking and being energetic and engaging. It's beautiful. I'm like this has been the best 3 hours I've had in months.
Well, and that's why I'm happy to share a lot of this, especially because I know you are someone who's creative and like wants to produce content. Is like because like it's been a battle. It has truly been a battle. And people don't realize when they listen to stuff like this how much of a battle it is. And like that's me saying that is not to try and scare anybody away from doing it. Like it's actually the opposite. What I want is I want people to say shut the fuck up to their fears and then produce shitty content until they figure out what it is that they actually want to be doing. There were so many people who were so tepid about so many of my ideas and who like were like, I don't know. But what I always really appreciated were the people who were just like, let's do it. Let's go. I'll do that.
Yeah, that's my mentality. And it's... Listen, all of us... I mean, you have much more experience in this realm than I do. My only sort of like creative endeavor has been this podcast. But, you know, of course, all of us want to be successful in some ways. It would be great if all of a sudden this podcast made money or whatever.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, truly, like I was telling you before about someone contacting me, or multiple people have contacted me as I've posted some of these episodes, have them to take them down. And it's not like, oh no, if I take down that podcast, I'm going to lose money or I'm going to like lose followers. My audience is so minuscule that it's no effect. But genuinely, to me, like each of these episodes means something very deep to me.
Yeah.
And so when a friend asks me to take it down, it's like you're taking down. I feel like it's like not only like it's like a piece of, first and foremost, my relationship between that person.
Yeah.
It's like for the first, even with my closest friends, I've never sat down and looked them in the eyes and asked them to tell me their life story for hours.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it deepens my relationship with that person. And that conversation is never lost, like that experience.
Yeah.
Even if this is never publicized, we still had this time together.
Right.
But still, it does feel like a piece of our relationship is affected, first and foremost. And then secondly, it's like, also, this is like a passion project.
Yeah.
And so if it is removed, then it's like, oh man, like that was something, the project itself means something to me. Sharing it with the world also means something to me.
Yeah.
But what you're doing, you need to find, and maybe you feel this way, I don't know if you do or not, but like everything that you're telling me about all of these pursuits that you've done, from the music videos to the podcast to the Mermaids and Mimosas, I think is fucking legitimately hysterical. Even those little videos you were putting up with your coworker Melinda. Like, dude, I admired the fuck out of that. Regardless of the views, regardless of like the quote-unquote success, the gay boy guide. Dude, you keep fucking after it. And there's a talent and an energy that you have. And most people, like you're saying, I don't mean to use... Like, I don't mean to talk shit about working 9 to 5,
yeah.
but most people don't go after it.
Right.
Everyone has a dream.
Right.
And the vast majority of people do not pursue the dream.
Because of the fears.
Because of the fear of the lack of success.
Yeah.
Or failure. Because of that fear.
To be an embarrassment.
But dude, and this is my opinion, genuinely, when I hear you talking about all these things, and a lot of these projects I had no idea about, I look at you now as, like, I've always like respected you and admired you because of who you are, but even more now, I'm like I automatically view you as a success. I'm like, just through this conversation, I'm starting to like put you on a pedestal a little bit. Seriously.
I mean, I certainly, I don't think I just. What's crazy is like, I love that you feel that way about me, and I'm so happy to accept it.
I know it's weird because I know our relationship started, like you were saying, when you were in high school, you looked up to the older kids or whatever, and I know probably throughout our life, you've mentioned this to me, like you looked at me like a big brother, but as you're talking, I feel like the relationship is shifting. I'm starting to look at you like a big brother.
Aww.
Seriously. Yeah. Have you ever heard the Teddy Roosevelt, is it Teddy Roosevelt, I think it is, poem, The Man in the Arena?
Yes. Yeah. I love, that's very much what I live by.
As you're talking, the poem is like playing in my head.
Yeah.
So, take pride in that.
Oh, yeah. And I definitely do, for sure. And that's why, you know, because I was so embarrassed about a lot of these things in my early 20s, it's like, I have a sense of pride in talking about it now, especially to be like, yeah, I survived that class where somebody straight up in front of people said, you're not funny, you're not entertaining, you're not good at this, I don't know why you're here. You know, I mean, that's the worst. That is humiliation and embarrassment at its worst. Yeah. You know, and like, even hearing that back, I never want to experience that again. Ever. But once you've experienced it, it becomes so much less scary, which I think is her tactic, by the way.
Right.
I think that is the mentality that she has about it, is she breaks you down to build you. Right. Which, great, but fuck off.
Shit hurts, yeah.
Like, I still... I mean, yeah. It's... I don't know. It is what it is, you know? It's like you are sort of grateful to this person at the same time as resenting them. And I'm sure this person has that relationship with a lot of people, you know?
I want to wrap it up here. Going forward, so let's go back to like the passion projects. Yeah. What do you... I don't know if you want to talk about what you're doing currently for work, but if not, like what is it that you want to pursue next? Like what is the next project? What is the next dream? What is the next thing you want to work toward?
The next dream is honestly a child. I mean...
Okay, that was going to be my separate question, but there you go.
Yeah. Okay. The next dream is a child, I think. Okay. I've landed a job at Nickelodeon, and I'm getting to experience Okay, well, I'll just quickly tie it together. Yeah. When the pandemic hit, I lost all my jobs. I was working at a restaurant. I was working at the Dolby Theater. All of my jobs were... I'd gotten away from the 9-to-5 thing entirely.
Did you have like a freak out moment when the pandemic hit?
I was surprisingly calm. Okay. I think, in retrospect.
I guess at this point that you have a husband with a job that didn't depend on the pandemic.
Well, I mean, I did freak out with that because I didn't know how his job was going to do. Okay. And if both of us had been on unemployment, then I would have been totally freaking out. But because I had the unemployment and because the checks were more than I was making at all of my jobs.
That's crazy.
Which some people could get upset about that, but I think it just shows how hard people are working at the bottom for nothing. And what you consider nothing, unemployment, is like actually a lot of money to people like me. You know? Anyways, that's a mini TED Talk on that. Right. But, so lost all my jobs. So that's when I started doing Quality Quarantine, a podcast, basically doing this type of thing too, that you were on, where I ask people sort of deep and meaningful questions about their life in a 30 minutes, I think was the span. And then the person below me, he had a baby, and I just lost all my...
you in your apartment building.
In my apartment building, yeah. I had lost all my jobs. I said, hey, if you ever need help with the baby, like, I'm upstairs, I'm not doing anything, like, I'm around, you know? And he's like, thanks, I'm good, I've got a nanny, you know, she speaks 3 languages or whatever. She's trained and she's certified, you know? And,
certified.
Anyway, so like I forget how long after that it was, but he texted me and said, "Hey, my nanny just ghosted me." You know this story, but my nanny just ghosted me. Is there any chance you could come down and help me out, like in the interim while I find someone new? And I ended up doing really well. Was kind of a natural at it, and I was the nanny for like 8 to 10 months, maybe a year, or like not a year, but like a year after the pandemic, a year from when the pandemic hit was when I got the job at Nickelodeon and I started working virtually at Nickelodeon. But what working with the baby did for me, I always felt like I was too young to have a baby, and it wasn't the right time. And then when I started working with the baby, I was like, oh, I'm really good at this. This is something I'm good at. This is something I enjoy. Like, I'm having a ton of fun doing this. And I actually feel ready to do this. And I think for me, like, you know, now that I've let go of being a 21-year-old pop star, because that's just like, I'm past that, you know? I think I've learned to disconnect age from my dreams a little bit more. I think that I could continue making music if I wanted to. I could definitely continue writing scripts. And I definitely want, as I'm in Nickelodeon, I want to like rise in the ranks of writing and like get staffed as a writer, hopefully on a TV show. And then be writing scripts, and like I could be a stay-at-home dad and be writing scripts. Okay. You know? I mean, that's the dream, that's the new dream. And I think it's okay to have new dreams. Like, absolutely. Well, I think some people view it as like you're a failure if you're like giving up on, at least I should say that was my view as a 20-year-old when I would hear people talk about their new dream, you know? So I should preface it with that.
My perspective on it is, and I don't want to call anyone a failure, but I guess if we're talking about it, maybe if I'm being totally honest, I think you're a failure if you never attempt your dream in the moment. Yeah. So if your dream was to be a 21-year-old pop star, and you never attempted to be a 21-year-old pop star, that's the failure. Right.
Yeah, no, and I think that's much more what I'm ascribing to, and like, you can't, there's such a desire with all of this to just like churn it out, get it out now, like become famous, successful right now, you know? And the fact is that these things take time. Music, oh my gosh, takes so much time. I don't know how they churn out hits so quickly, but when you're independently producing, I'll say, when you don't have a record label behind you, when you're on your own just trying to work with a producer one-on-one and get a song out, takes forever, like a full calendar year, I would say, or at least it did for me. I forget where I was going with this, but
you're talking about the new dream,
adjusting the new dream
being a dad,
with a stable studio job that has health insurance and hopefully makes bank. I mean, I would love that stability for myself. Having worked so hard for so long, and like, I mean, we glossed over some of the really shitty things, like, but I've worked, at the dance studio for sure, I was cleaning bathrooms and wiping down mirrors and like doing that sort of shit too. That's not even that bad compared to like some of the, I don't know, just like shitty experiences that I've had in certain work environments. And yeah, so to be at a studio with kids, I think is like the new dream.
How many kids do you think you want?
3.
Oh wow, you have the exact number that came out very quickly.
Well, we're talking about it, right? We're in the talks right now about like what we want.
When should we anticipate the first one?
Oh my gosh! You want me to blow the exclusive? No, I'm just kidding. No.
Do you have news?
No, I don't. I don't.
But soon.
If I was doing the PR tour for my next pop album, that's totally the type of bomb I would drop during this interview.
But we're talking soon. Like, we're talking in the next year to 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you just need to find a surrogate and
all of that.
Are y'all in the process of, like, interviewing, finding surrogates?
Yeah, I mean, for a long time it's been interviewing the fertility places, or, like, just checking out different fertility places. So that was step 1. Step 2 has been getting all the testing done on us first.
What does that mean? Like,
to make sure our sperm is good, to make sure, like, we don't have any sort of genetic defects in our whatever. And so then the steps after that. And then, yeah, we've got several steps after that. But it's been a slow process.
Maybe this isn't a question. Is, like, one kid going to be your kid, like, biologically related to you, and then the next one biologically related to him?
Yeah.
And then the third one, like, you rolled the dice? Can you, like, mix your semen together?
You can.
Is that a thing?
That is a thing.
Oh,
and
cool.
People do that.
That's probably what I would do.
People do that. But I think because Tyler already has a bunch of nephews and nieces on his side, the first one would be mine. Because because we don't have any grandchildren. My parents don't have any grandchildren on my side, so we'd be making them grandparents for the first time.
Right.
And yeah.
This is a difficult question.
Oh God.
Is it, like, weird to think that one is not going to be related to you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think.
Have you all talked about that?
We talked about that today.
Really?
Yes. Which is so weird. But for me,
Like, do you think you're going to love one less?
No. And I love Tyler so much, and, like, I just think there should be more people like him in the world, and, like, I just would think a miniature, not that kids are a direct carbon copy of their parents, but I think a miniature Tyler is just the cutest thing in the entire world. And
it's going to be the brother, or even they're going to be siblings.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be.
And they'll share an egg.
Yeah.
The kids will share an egg, and
will you keep the same woman?
Yeah.
Ideally?
It's the same. It would be the same eggs for all of the children.
Oh, so you just get all the eggs at once?
So basically, we are making all of our babies right up front.
Right. Oh.
And they just are frozen. They're just frozen until we. Yeah.
That's so wild.
Isn't it wild?
That's
Modern
exciting
science.
as fuck.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. But man, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
crazy.
Damn.
It's
Do you
crazy.
feel nervous or excited or both, or?
Both, for sure. I mean, and especially with things like, I mean, even just this move to Arrowhead, it's like...
Yeah, so can you just talk about that real quick? Y'all are getting out of here in the next... By October 1st, Tyler told me, right? You're trying to get out of here by October 1st?
Yes. So, in the pandemic, I'm not sure how... Well, I'll gloss over this quickly. In the pandemic, we needed to get out, and, like, right at the time... You've heard this story before, but, like, right around the time where it was like, let's flatten the curve. You guys just stay inside for another month.
Yeah.
And we'll flatten
what happened to flattening the curve?
We'll flatten this curve. And so we were like, okay, everybody flatten the curve. Then, when the narrative changed from flatten the curve to, fuck, this is going to be a really long time that we're dealing with this. That switch in mentality was really hard for a lot of people, and it was really hard for us. And I said to Tyler, let's just go to Lake Arrowhead. Let's check out a couple of properties. And if we find something we like, great. If we don't...
Lake Arrowhead is like an hour and a half outside LA.
Outside of LA.
Mountains.
In the mountains. It's the little sister to Big Bear for people who are familiar. But, and we've been looking up there for years, trying to find a property that we liked enough to buy. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't totally out of the blue. And it was just a weekend escape to get out. I mean, at that point, we were even afraid to see, like, a realtor, you know? But we all wore masks. We did the hand sanitizer thing everywhere. And we ended up finding something and loving it. And it was a total lifesaver for us because we were in a 900 square foot studio apartment. Yeah.
Year and a half in this motherfucker.
Yeah. But with neighbors all around you, and, you know, I mean, I've told you the crazy shit in our building of just people just being batshit crazy, and, like, we are really just, if this is going to keep going, we don't know how much longer we can deal with it within the building. And so, yeah, I think that we want to, for as long as my job gets to be virtual, like, we want to try seeing what it's like. It's just so nice to have a 3-story house, essentially, as opposed to a 900 square foot apartment. And then also just the space and, like, being able to walk outside with your dog without wearing a mask and without having to walk by anybody. There's just so much freedom to it up there. But then I, of course, have some reservations and anxieties about leaving West Hollywood.
It's been your home. You've been like, this has been like your community for a long time. Yeah. Especially because and I've told Tyler this, but I don't like when we say things like, we may never come back. You know, that scares me to think that. And I'm somebody who doesn't. So you're not, like, ready to leave, even with the pandemic. You're not ready to leave.
I'm somebody who doesn't deal well with change.
Gotcha.
I don't deal well with change. It takes me a long time to process things. I have a 72-hour delay on my emotions, where, like, something will happen and it takes me 72 hours to feel what I should have felt immediately. You know? So I'm excited. I'm nervous. There's things up there. But, like, for me and my mentality, it helps to say it's for a year. You know, like, put a timestamp on it. And, you know, just stay curious and see what happens. Like, as I've said through this entire thing, because I'm sure you have conversations with some very neurotic people as well, who have, like, doomsday predictions about everything and what's going to happen and blah, blah, blah. And my thing is, let's see. In 3 months, it'll change. Pretty consistently, every 3 months, the narrative changes on what this is, how long it's going to last, what the issue is now, some new development, like the FDA approving something.
Not to get us off the COVID talk, because we do need to wrap up, but, dude, I was listening back to some podcasts that were released, like, right when this was happening, like March 2020.
Yeah.
And the whole narrative was like, is this gonna last till May?
Yes.
Like 3 months.
Yes.
And people like freaking out. You know, it's like some podcasts are listening to are like a week, 2 weeks in, so like late March.
Right.
And people kind of like, people on the podcast freaking out. They're like, man, we're going to do this for 2 more months?
Yeah.
Dude.
I sort of wish I had kept Quality Quarantine for that reason. Just to have archived it.
Just to get people's thoughts and, like, reactions about it.
Reactions, to see where I'm at. But honestly, like, there were so many dark moments in the quarantine for me, personally. I don't know if I could be on camera, you know, and be positive. Like, that bad, you know what I mean?
You don't
like,
have to be positive.
You don't have to be positive, but, like, you have to enjoy what you're producing.
Yeah.
And, like, if you're in a negative place and you can't produce, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this podcast has disappeared over the last 6 months, is I've been in a very dark, negative place. I feel like, at least personally, I don't know what the fuck code holds, but at least personally, I feel like I'm having these conversations with you is, you know, a light in the darkness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's a good place.
Yeah, it is.
To end.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
Like,
this thing is going to keep going. I don't know. I don't know what form it's going to take. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, if it's going to be keep being interviews with family and friends. I'm running out of friends. I'm not making any new ones. So, but you know, I'm going to keep grinding away at it. What the story you've told is inspiration to do that. That's exactly what you've done, and I feel you're inspiring me. Just hearing you talk for the last 3 hours has inspired me to work harder and stay more consistent and to keep pushing along.
The focus really should be, if this is something that lights you up and gets you going, then like focus on that. And for you, what makes it a better podcast? Like, and when you're listening to other podcasts, as you're just saying, like, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, when do you tune out of certain podcasts, you know? Like, what format keeps you engaged the entire time?
Yeah,
you know? Like, all those sorts of things. And when you start listening as a creator and being like, oh, what did so-and-so do here? Like, why do I like this podcast so much?
Right.
You know? Like, there is actual thought that goes into all of these decisions.
Right.
Right? Like, release date, time length, discussion format. Like, all of that gets discussed.
Right.
And isn't just like an accidental thing that happens. It's a choice. You make a choice with everything, and that's what makes, that's part of producing anything.
Man, I'm gonna miss having you around, bro. I don't know what my LA future holds. I'm leaving here in 2 weeks for 2.5 months, and I'll be back in December, but I don't know for how long. And the thought of, I don't want to cry here at the end, but the thought of not having you in here in LA is like not a good thought.
Well, I wouldn't think of it like that. Like I said, and I can't think of it like that either, personally, because my entire world is here. And like, we have a friend up in Arrowhead who is down in West Hollywood all the time. And like, I don't know, maybe it sounds like too optimistic to say, but like, I'll be back and you'll be up. You know, you can always come up. I mean, I'm going to be desperate for, you know.
Are there human beings up there?
There are.
Okay.
There are. And I've become really good friends with this guy at the brewery, and he's super chill and dope, and like.
So there's like a community up there. There's friends to be made.
There's friends to be made. There's friends to be made, and like, I mean, I think I said this before, but like, I mean, coming out of this, I've said this to you, but like, I've really struggled in being like, who the fuck are my friends?
Right.
Like, I've been in this city for 10 years, 13 years, actually.
With college, yeah.
With college. And, who am I still friends with after not seeing any other human being for over a year? And like, it's been so great to have you here, somebody who I know, you know, innately. I don't have to try or put on or like, you know, whatever. Because I have had some, I think I told you, where I get together with old, quote unquote, old friends, and like, we have nothing to talk about.
Right.
And it's like,
yeah.
So I've really loved having you here too.
Me too, man. I consider you family at this point. I consider you a brother. Thank you very much for doing this. I'm gonna miss you. I love you, man. Like, I love you like family.
I love you too.
So thank you, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm glad I'm interesting enough to interview.
No, for sure. It's been
I know. I was about to be like, yo, dude, where the fuck is my interview?
All right, bro.
Here it is. Thanks for listening.
Peace, y'all.